Chapter 415. Several days later, perfected Lord Nether River's speed in the sky was too fast, and he used a secret technique to conceal his figure. Outsiders could not see him at all. Xiaoping'an, Meng Ziki, and Rinzhu were captured by perfected Lord Nether River's divine power. They were carried by perfected Lord Nether River in the sky, like 3 burdens. Xiaoping'an, Meng Ziki, and Rinzhu did not know how many miles they had flown and where they had flown to. This was because from beginning to end, there was only a vast expanse of white mist around them. There were no coordinates or markings. Although the 3 of them had their eyes open, they felt like they were being blindfolded. Xiaoping'an could only feel that perfected Lord Nether River had flown with them for 3 days and 3 nights. Given perfected Lord Nether River's flying speed, they should have flown hundreds of thousands of miles in these 3 days and 3 nights. The whole journey was silent. Perfected Lord Nether River did not speak. Meng Ziki and Rinzhu did not speak either. Naturally, Xiaoping'an did not speak either. Before they came, perfected Lord Nether River had already revealed the mystery and told them the goal of this trip and their mission. Perfected Lord Nether River also told Xiaoping'an more. Xiaoping'an finally knew why perfected Lord Nether River had taken a fancy to his tiger prop secret technique. Perfected Lord Nether River promised the 3 that as long as they brought out what he wanted, he would return their freedom to them. 3 days later, Xiaoping'an felt that perfected Lord Nether River had brought them from the sky into the sea. The white clouds around them also turned into blue water. The water swayed. After several hours, perfected Lord Nether River's voice finally reached their ears. "We're here." Then the water around them disappeared. Xiaoping'an and the other 2 found that perfected Lord Nether River had brought them to a strange seabed. Xiaoping'an was in an extremely serene canyon at the bottom of the undying sea. As he glanced around, Xiaoping'an could only see glowing fish swimming in the surrounding seawater. That kind of fish would only appear at the bottom of the sea at a depth of tens of thousands of meters. The canyon was full of jagged rocks. A fiery red lava river flowed calmly at the bottom of the canyon. The lava and water came in contact with each other, producing a large number of bubbles. However, in the depths of the sea beside the lava, there were layers of frozen ice everywhere. Ice and fire mingled and coexisted harmoniously here. In front of the 4, there was a huge, dilapidated shrine submerged in the sea. The shrine occupied an area of several square kilometers. There were also huge pillars and some broken statues in the circular shrine. Xiaoping'an and the other 2 were brought here by True Monarch Styx River. They had no idea where they were in the undying sea. "Senior, is this the entrance to the fallen god's land you mentioned?" Xiaoping'an asked. "Yes, it's here." Perfected Lord Nether River nodded. "The dilapidated shrine in front of you is a powerful killing formation at the entrance to the land of fallen gods. If you enter rashly, you will die instantly." True Monarch, Nether River said. He pointed his finger and summoned a water dragon. After the water dragon was summoned, it directly rushed towards the huge, dilapidated temple. Soon, Xiaoping'an saw the water dragon rushing into the dilapidated shrine. Then, the tranquil water in the dilapidated shrine started to swirl. Xiaoping'an saw a cold light flashing in the void. In the blink of an eye, the water dragon was sliced into pieces by the cold light and dissipated in the shrine. Soon after, the swirling water in the temple stopped, as if nothing had happened. F***CK. Xiaoping'an, Meng Ziki, and Rinzhu looked at each other and sucked in a breath of cold air. "Senior, how do we enter?" asked Meng Ziki. "You'll know in a while. Someone else is coming." "Someone else is going in with us?" "Yes. After you enter, be careful. Some dangers may come from those who go in with you." Almost as soon as perfected Lord Mingi finished speaking, Xiaoping'an saw a huge underwater whirlpool appear in the water not far away. After the whirlpool dissipated, a smiling old man in a red robe with a head full of silver hair appeared at the spot where the whirlpool had dissipated with 7 people. The old man himself was wearing a red robe, and the 7 people behind him were all handsome men. They were all wearing red robes, and their faces were deathly pale, as if they were covered in a layer of powder. Moreover, their temperaments were cold, and they looked abnormally demonic. In any case, it made people feel uncomfortable just by looking at them. "Ha! Perfected Lord Nether River, long time no see." The old man smiled and greeted Perfected Lord Nether River. Perfected Lord Nether River glanced at the old man and said softly, "Old Monster Tianhua, your water escape technique is getting more and more powerful. I almost didn't notice you just now." "Ha! You're flattering me. I have a lot of enemies. Of course, I have to practice my escaping skills more." The old man laughed. Then his eyes fell on Xiaopinggan and the other 2. "You didn't bring many people this time, only 3. You brought 5 last time. What a pity none of them came out alive." "It doesn't matter how many people there are. It depends on luck. Didn't none of the disciples you recruited last time come out alive?" Perfected Lord Nether River and Old Monster Tianhua were talking. It seemed that the 2 of them were not on good terms. Perfected Lord Nether River's voice suddenly sounded in Xiaopinggan's ears. "After you enter, if you meet the people behind this old monster alone, you'd better avoid them if you can't defeat them." Although this old monster Tianhua looks all smiles, he's actually the most sinister and perverted. I have some conflicts with him. When you enter, be careful of the people behind him. They seem to be his disciples, but they're actually his gigolos and puppets. Perfected Lord Nether River's voice sounded in Xiaopinggan's ears. One could imagine how perverted these people were if they could be described as perverted by Perfected Lord Nether River. Hearing the words, gigolos, and looking at the 7 handsome men behind old monster Tianhua, Xiaopinggan felt goosebumps all over his body and wanted to vomit. But before Xiaopinggan could vomit, the sky above the canyon suddenly darkened. Xiaopinggan looked up and saw a huge black dragon. It was passing through the sky above the canyon and swimming down rapidly. That black dragon was too big. It was more than 1,000 meters long and majestic. On the black dragon's head, between the 2 dragon horns, stood a woman in a white dress. She was beautiful and ethereal. When Xiaopinggan looked at her, he could not help but think of a sentence from the Luo Shun Fu. She was like a light cloud covering the moon, drifting like the returning snow in the wind. From afar, she was as bright as the rising sun. From afar, she was as bright as the morning glow. From afar, she was as bright as a lotus flower. She was delicate and fit. Her shoulders were cut. Her waist was plain. Her neck was elegant. Her skin was white. Her body was beautiful. Her body was calm. Her body was gentle. And her words were charming. The black dragon zigzagged down from the sky. When it reached the sky above the dilapidated temple, it swayed its body and stopped. Seeing that woman, Lord Styx River perked up and took the initiative to nod at her. "Greetings, Black Dragon Sect Leader." Old freak Tianhua did not speak, but he put away the smile on his face. He seemed to be very wary and quietly put some distance between him and the woman. Xiaopinggan was surprised. That woman did not look old, but she was already the leader of a sect. He had never heard of the Black Dragon Gate, but to be able to make true monarch Mingyi so serious and make old monster Tianhua so fearful, it must be a big power, and that woman looked very young. Although the woman looked young, her cultivation should be below a demigod. Behind the Black Dragon Sect leader stood 2 women in the same dress. One of them was in a green dress and the other in a black dress. They were both beautiful women, but in front of the Black Dragon Sect leader, they were slightly inferior. "It's been 10 years. We meet again here." The leader of the Black Dragon Sect spoke softly. She swept her gaze across and took in the expressions of everyone present. Her voice was abnormally cold and arrogant, with a strange magical power. When people heard it, they would feel their minds calm down and their desires would vanish. They would also feel ashamed of their inferiority. "The Wanshin sect should be almost here," Old Freak Tianhua said. "Haha, I didn't expect everyone to be here. Today, the Wanshan sect is late." "Sorry," a voice sounded in the surrounding water. Then, Xiao saw a huge metal ball fall from the sky above the canyon. The ball opened, and an old man came out with 6 sorcerers in the white sorcerer robes of the Wanshan sect. "Is everyone here?" Another voice sounded. Following this voice, Xiao saw a golden door appear in front of everyone. The golden door opened, and an old man with a horsetail whisk and a long sword on his back came out with more than 10 people. As soon as these people arrived, the originally quiet bottom of the water became lively, but there were also undercurrents. Chapter 416. The people in front of him, starting from Supreme Mingi to the old man, were definitely famous figures in the god-slaying insect realm. Xiao had thought that only he, Meng Ziki, and Rinzhu would enter the fallen god's land this time. He did not expect so many people to come. Old Weirdo Tianhua brought 7 people, Black Dragon Sect Master brought 2 people, Wanshin Sect 6 people, and the old man brought 13 people. In total, there were 31 people who entered the fallen god's land this time. Xiao quietly sized up the old man from Wanshin Sect. The old man had a thin face and looked somewhat refined. Looking at the old man's clothes, Xiao could not identify the old man's identity. Xiao did not know who he was either. However, since the old man could appear here, there was no doubt that he was definitely an expert in the Nine Suns realm and had a high status in Wanshin Sect. The 6 people behind the old man, 4 men and 2 women, should be the official disciples of the Wanshin Sect. Judging from their temperament, those who could become disciples of the Wanshan Sect were all well-deserved ruthless characters, the elites of the elites. Xiao was also a member of Wanshan Sect. Seeing the official army of Wanshan Sect on this occasion, Xiao mood was slightly complicated. Should I reveal my identity and establish a relationship with the old man? Xiao muttered this question in his heart. Just as Xiao was sizing up the team of Wanshan Sect, the old man who brought the 6 disciples of Wanshan Sect here suddenly turned his eyes to Xiao. After exchanging glances with Xiao the old man's eyes suddenly lit up. The old man's eyes were so sharp that Xiao hurriedly avoided his gaze. "Everyone is here, right? If you don't have anything else to say, then let's start. We'll follow the usual rules. We'll settle our grudges in the land of the deceased gods. The people you've brought will depend on their own abilities. We won't blame anyone for their deaths. After they come out, we'll let bygones be bygones." Old Freak Tianhua chuckled as he glanced at the last old man who walked out of the golden door with a horsetail whisk and a long sword on his back. He clicked his tongue and said, "Immortal Wuchen has really put in a lot of effort this time. You actually brought 13 people this time. Impressive, impressive. How many people I can bring is my own ability. If you don't like it, you can bring them too. What does it have to do with you, old monster Tianhua?" The old man with the horsetail whisk rolled his eyes as he sneered at those people behind old freak Tianhua. "Last time, some people that I brought here were killed inside. I know who did that. Don't blame me for being impolite this time." Hearing Immortal Wuchen's words, old freak Tianhua narrowed his eyes and sneered. It seemed that they were not on good terms. "Ahem, if there's nothing else, let's get started," Immortal Mingi said as he took out a golden token. "Wait, I have one more thing to say." The old man with the Wanshin Sect opened his mouth. He stared at Immortal Mingi and said, "Immortal Mingi, you and our Wanshin Sect have always minded our own business. But don't you think you've gone too far this time?" "What do you mean, elderly?" Immortal Mingi asked. It turns out that the old man is an elder of the Wanshin Sect. No wonder, Xiao said in his heart. Elderly suddenly pointed at Xiao and said calmly, "Immortal Mingi, this man is a disciple of our Wanshin Sect. His name is Long Huan. What do you mean by capturing a disciple of our Wanshin Sect to work for you in the land of the deceased gods? Are you trying to bully our Wanshin Sect?" Hearing Elder Li's words, everyone's eyes turned to Xiao who was not the focus of attention. The Black Dragon Sect Master, Old Freak Tianhua, and Immortal Wuchen all looked interested. Capturing a disciple of the Wanshan Sect to work for him in front of an elder of the Wanshan Sect was a slap to the Wanshan Sect's face. Old Freak Tianhua laughed and added fuel to the fire. Immortal Mingi is really powerful. You even captured a disciple of the Wanshan sect. Impressive, impressive, impressive. Xiao Pingan was also stunned. He was just an outer disciple of the Wanshan sect. How did Elderly know him and even know his name? It was too magical. Immortal Mingi looked at Xiao Pingan. Xiao Pingan spread out his hands innocently. He did not contact anyone of the Wanshan sect just now. Immortal Mingi was right next to him. His skills could not be hidden from Immortal Mingi. That's right. Long Huan is an outer disciple of the Wanshan sect. But doesn't the Wanshan sect usually ignore the grudges of outer disciples? Why didn't the Wanshan sect jump out when he was being hunted down? Why? Are you trying to pick a fight with me? Immortal Mingi rolled his triangular eyes and sneered. His attitude was very tough. Although your Wanshan sect is big, it's impossible for you to make trouble for me. If you're not convinced, let's fight right here. Long Huan is not an outer disciple of the Wanshan sect. He is an official disciple, Elderly said calmly. Some time ago, the 9 sons of Yundao came to the Immortal City and reported to the Wanshan sect. An outer disciple of the Wanshan sect, Long Huan, was looking for the soul-stabilizing pearl in the Immortal Sea and was chased by the Sea King Association. After understanding the situation, the Immortal City immediately decided to accept Long Huan as an official disciple and sent an ultimatum to the Sea King Association. After receiving the ultimatum, the head of the Sea King Association, Qi Pingzhang, personally came to the Immortal City to apologize. These days, our Wanshan sect has sent people to the Immortal Sea to search for Long Huan. We did not expect Immortal Mingi to be with you. Tell me, should I interfere in this matter? Do you want me to give the Wanshan sect a reason? Hearing Elder Li's reasonable words, Immortal Mingi was stunned. If Xiao Pingan was an outer disciple of the Wanshan sect, and the Wanshan sect dared to find trouble with him, he would definitely not let it go. At most, he would fight to the death, and everyone would go their separate ways. He was not afraid of the Wanshan sect. However, once Xiao Pingan became an official disciple of the Wanshan sect, he would be riding on the head of the Wanshan sect. If he offended the Wanshan sect would definitely not let it go. The Wanshan sect did not only have elderly, it was a powerful organization with demigod experts. Isn't Long Huan an outer disciple of the Wanshan sect? Why did he become an official disciple after being hunted down? Elderly calmly explained, because Long Huan mastered the soul-splitting secret technique and can forge soul tools. Our Wanshan sect is currently lacking talents in this field. Therefore, after the 9 sons of the Cloud Island came to the Immortal City and explained Long Huan's situation, our Wanshan sect decided to accept Long Huan as an official disciple and take over his troubles and grudges. The 9 sons of the Cloud Island came to the Immortal City on the night Long Huan was hunted down by the Sea King Association. The Immortal City also listed Long Huan as an official disciple on the same day and sent an ultimatum to the Sea King Association. Therefore, the Wanshan sect can ignore Long Huan's status as an outer disciple of the Wanshan sect. However, when you met him, he was already an official disciple of the Wanshan sect. This matter is not directed at you, but Immortal Mingi, the Wanshan sect must take care of Long Huan's matter. This change was too bizarre. Xiao Pingan was dumbfounded. He did not expect himself to become an official disciple of the Wanshan sect. Feng Liu and Yundao Jiuzi were indeed good friends. They couldn't afford to offend the Sea King Society, so they went straight to the Immortal City to ask for reinforcements. When the 10,000 deities sect heard that there was an outer sect disciple who knew the soul-splitting secret technique and had found a soul-anchoring pearl that could refine a soul tool at any time, they immediately made Feng Liu an official disciple. That was the gist of the matter. The twists and turns of the road led back to the Wanshan sect. Lord Mingi's expression changed. His eyes flashed for a moment before he suddenly turned his head to look at Xiao Pingan and asked, "You know the soul-splitting secret technique and can forge soul tools?" Xiao Pingan nodded with an innocent face. "I was lucky enough to learn this skill. I found the soul-anchoring pearl for myself. Why didn't you say so earlier?" Senior, you didn't ask. Lord Mingi almost vomited blood. At this moment, the Wanshin sect was in the right, but he was unwilling to send Xia Pingan over. However, if he completely fell out with the Wanshin sect because of Xia Pingan, he would be targeted by a bunch of lunatics from the Wanshin sect. They would not rest until one of them was dead, and he would collapse. This was a torment for Lord Mingi. He could neither keep Xia Pingan nor send Xia Pingan away. Lord Mingi's expression changed for a long time before he flew into a rage out of humiliation. He clenched his teeth and flipped the table. Fine, I won't care about Long Huan. Since he's a member of the Wanshin sect, it has nothing to do with me. But I won't participate in today's gathering. You can do whatever you want, but I won't do it. Nobody can enter, nobody can play. Saying this, Immortal Mingi moved his hand and put away the golden token. Then he pointed at Xia Pingan. Xia Pingan felt an itch in his throat. He opened his mouth, and the poisonous, soul-seizing insect turned into a golden light and flew out of his mouth, landing on Immortal Mingi's hand. Immortal Mingi put away the poisonous, soul-seizing insect and turned around to leave with Meng Ziki and Rinju. This time, it was the others' turn to be dumbfounded. Wait, Lord Dustless hurriedly said. If Lord Mingi leaves, the token of the land of the fallen gods will be missing. How can we enter? That's right, that's right. If you leave, we'll have to wait another 10 years before we can come again. Old weirdo Tianhua said hurriedly. Immortal Mingi straightened his neck and sneered with an unhappy look. I don't care. That token belongs to me. I can use it however I want. I'm not prepared this time, so I won't go there. I quit. You could do whatever you want. Anyway, I won't play this time. If you want to keep me here, you can have a try. If anyone dares to make a move, I will fight him to the death. Chapter 417. Elder Li and the Black Dragon sect master both frowned. If Lord Mingi was determined to leave, no one here could stop him. However, if he left, they would miss this opportunity to enter the Fallen God's land, and their trip would be in vain. The Fallen God's land was not a place that could be entered at any time. If they missed this opportunity, they would have to wait another 10 years for the next one. Ahem, seniors, please listen to me. Seeing the deadlock, Xia Pingan finally opened his mouth. For a moment, everyone's eyes fell on Xia Pingan. Xia Pingan first bowed to Elder Li. Long Huan greets Elder Li. Today's matter happened because of me. If you can't enter the Fallen God's land because of me, I'll feel very uneasy. I have an idea. If Elder Li agrees, I believe that Lord Mingi will also stay. Then, we won't have to come in vain. Elder Li of the Wanshin sect was interested in Xia Pingan. He raised his eyebrows slightly and said, Oh, what idea do you have? Let's hear it. Lord Mingi saved me when I was chased by the Sea King Association. At that time, Lord Mingi didn't know that I had been accepted as an official disciple of the Wanshin sect. I didn't know that either, so I promised Lord Mingi to help him enter the Fallen God's land. Lord Mingi prepared a lot of things for me, which benefited me a lot. If Elder Li agrees, I want to continue to help Lord Mingi to enter the Fallen God's land as an individual and fulfill my promise. In this way, Lord Mingi will also stay. Hearing Xia Pingan's words, everyone was stunned, including Lord Mingi. Lord Mingi turned his head and looked at Xia Pingan. He didn't expect that Xia Pingan would say something like this at this moment and be willing to enter the Fallen God's land for him. Elder Li of the Wanshin sect frowned slightly and said, Do you know that it's very dangerous to enter the Fallen God's land? You may not be able to come out alive. I know, but I've promised Senior Mingi before, and I've also received Senior Mingi's favor. So, no matter how dangerous it is, I'm willing to go in and try. Xia Pingan said generously. Just this sentence alone made the surrounding people look at him in a different light. Since he kept his promise, they could see some of his character. Elder Li, what are you thinking about? Agree. If you don't agree, then we'll have come here for nothing. Old monster Tianhua grumbled from the side. Elder Li, if he enters the land of the fallen gods, my 2 disciples will definitely not attack him. If others attack him, my Black Dragon sect disciples will definitely not stand idly by as long as they are on the side. The outrageously beautiful black dragon, sect master said softly. Ha ha, the people I brought wouldn't mess around. Old monster Tianhua chuckled. His eyes narrowed into slits, making him look somewhat mysterious. The pressure on the scene shifted to Elder Li's shoulders in an instant. Elder Li deliberated for a while. If he didn't agree, then this trip to the Wanshin sect would have been in vain, and there would be a lot of trouble in the future. After thinking for a while, he finally nodded. All right, Long Huan's action this time is a personal matter between him and Supreme Mingi. No matter what he obtains from the land of the fallen gods, the Wanshin sect will not ask about it. We'll talk about it after he comes out. As Elder Li spoke, he turned his head and moved his lips slightly. It seemed that he was saying something to the 6 disciples of the Wanshin sect behind him, but the others couldn't hear it. Supreme Mingi, who was originally unhappy, finally relaxed. He glanced at Xiao Pingon and said slowly, You don't have to go in. Once you go in, it's hard to say whether you'll be lucky or inauspicious. If you want to come out, you'll have to wait 7 days. Senior, thank you for taking care of me these days. I still keep my promise to you. Supreme Mingi looked deeply at Xiao Pingon and nodded. He didn't say anything else, which meant that he had agreed. In that case, let's get started. The leader of the Black Dragon sect opened her mouth again. She moved her hand, and a golden token appeared in her hand. She directly threw the token over her head. Then, a ray of brilliance shot from the token into the dilapidated divine palace. Seeing this, the others didn't delay. Supreme Mingi, Old Weirdo Tianhua, Supreme Dustless, and Elder Li of the Wanshin sect each took out a similar golden token. They let the tokens float in the air, and each of them shot a ray of brilliance into the divine palace. 5 rays of brilliance converged in the middle of the divine palace. Then, under everyone's eyes, a 30-meter-high bronze door suddenly appeared between the 2 collapsed stone pillars in the middle of the divine palace. The door slowly opened, revealing a gray fog behind it. Without any instructions, the 2 female disciples of the Black Dragon sect flew gracefully toward the door. The 7 men in red robes behind Old Weirdo Tianhua were not slow either. They flew up at the same time and flew toward the bronze door. Then, the people of the Wanshin sect and Supreme Dustless also flew toward the door. Xiao Pingon, Meng Ziki, and Rin Zhu followed closely behind. The 3 groups of people flew into the bronze door almost one after another. After everyone flew in, Supreme Mingi, the leader of the Black Dragon sect, and the others withdrew their tokens. The bronze door in the divine palace disappeared. After Xiao Pingon flew into the door, he felt as if he had fallen into a whirlpool with a huge suction force. After a moment of dizziness, his eyes suddenly opened up. What appeared in front of him and the others was a huge divine palace under the water. Judging from the water pressure on the water shield on his body, the shrine was about 10,000 meters deep. The water pressure was very strong, and the water shield consumed a lot of divine power. The sculptures around the shrine were all male mermen holding tridents. They stood at the open door of the divine palace. The door of the divine palace was open, and at the far end of the divine palace, there was a bright exit. Inside the divine palace, there were many mermen swimming around. The mermen swimming in the temple had bronze metallic light flashing all over their bodies. If one looked carefully, they would discover that these mermen were not mermen, but some kind of powerful metal puppet. This was the first test to enter the land of the fallen gods. After entering the divine palace, one could not use divine power on summoning techniques. One could only rely on physical strength to break through the metal puppets of the mermen in the divine palace. In order to pass through the divine palace, one had to destroy 3 merman puppets. This was also the reason why true monarch Nether River wanted Xiao Pingon to eat the Flood Dragon Blood Soul Crystal. If he did not eat the Flood Dragon Blood Soul Crystal, he would not be able to pass this test. While Xiao Pingon was sizing up the divine palace in front of him, the 7 demonic red-robed guards had already rushed in. Then, the mermen in the divine palace were like sharks that smelled blood. They immediately surrounded them, and a fierce battle began. Once they entered the divine palace, the water shield on the 7 people disappeared instantly. They could only rely on their physical strength to fight with the merman puppets. In the next second, the 2 female disciples of Black Dragon sect also entered. Then, it was the 13 people brought by true monarch Wuchen. As soon as these people entered, mermaid puppets immediately surrounded them. The tridents in the hands of these mermaid puppets didn't hold back as they ruthlessly stabbed towards these people. "Brother Long, let's go together." Meng Ziki and Rinju walked over and said to Xia Pingon, "Ahem, you go first. I'll go in later." Xia Pingon shook his head. Meng Ziki and Rinju glanced at each other and then looked at the 6 disciples of Wanshin sect. Without saying anything, they directly rushed into the divine palace and fought with the merman puppets. After the others left, a man among the 6 disciples of Wanshan sect walked towards Xiaopingon. The man was tall and handsome, with long eyebrows. He was wearing a white robe, and his whole body seemed to be glowing. "Junior Brother Long Huan, I'm Chu Itong. Elderly just told us to take care of you outside. You can follow us." "Thank you, Senior Brother Chu. You go first. I'm not feeling well. My stomach hurts. I'll take a rest. I'll go in later." Xiaopingon touched his stomach and said. That Chu Itong frowned slightly, but he did not insist. Probably because he felt that Xiaopingon did not know how to appreciate favors. His expression turned indifferent as he nodded. "If you encounter any danger, you can come and find us." "Okay, thank you, Senior Brother." Chu Itong turned around and waved his hand. He led the other disciples of Wan Shun sect into the Divine Palace. In fact, in just a short while, the 2 women from the Black Dragon Gate each wielded a sword. They were powerful and had already killed 3 mermaid puppets each. They were the first to pass through the main hall. The others also passed the test one after another and flew out of the Divine Palace through the door on the opposite side of the Divine Palace. After those people left, the fragments of the merman puppets in the Divine Palace automatically combined and repaired themselves, turning back into mermen. This Divine Palace was a one-way passage. Once you stepped through the door in front of you, you could not come out. After everyone left, Xia Pingon slowly took out a bathtub from his space warehouse. He added some water in the bathtub and poured the divine spring of the 6th sun realm into the bathtub. When the water in the bathtub changed color, he calmly took off his clothes and soaked in it comfortably. Xia Pingon, Secret Mandala's divine power, had reached 6,988 points after fusing with the 2 Assassin Rel Pearls. He only needed to soak in the divine spring of the 6th sun realm to officially advance to the 6th sun realm. Previously, it was inconvenient for him to advance on the island. If he had advanced at that time, and True Lord Mingi discovered that he was a fake 6th sun realm summoner, it might have caused a lot of trouble. Therefore, Xia Pingon had been waiting patiently. Now that he had entered the land of the fallen gods, it was a good opportunity to advance to the 6th sun realm. There was danger everywhere, but no one outside knew about it. Xia Pingon had stayed until the end because he wanted to soak in the divine spring and officially advance to the 6th sun realm. Chapter 418. In less than half an hour, the 6 yang divine spring in the bathtub had been completely absorbed by Xia Pingon. Soon after, Xia Pingon's secret mandala was shrouded in a gray mist. The range of the gray mist not only covered his secret mandala, but also expanded many times, shrouding all the mountains and rivers outside the secret mandala. This process lasted for more than an hour. When the gray mist in the secret mandala dissipated, Xia Pingon's secret mandala had undergone a huge change. It had changed from a city that covered hundreds of square kilometers to a small divine kingdom that covered tens of thousands of square kilometers. The borders of the mountains and rivers had become part of this small divine kingdom. A huge city stood in the center of the small divine kingdom. On the city tower of the huge city, there were 3 words in Xiaozhuan: Firmament City. In the surroundings of the huge firmament city, there were dozens of towns and villages of various sizes. There were also several other cities that were obscurely displayed like ink paintings. A vast sea appeared in the east of the God Kingdom. There was a towering tree in the middle of the sea. The 6 suns that represented the 6 suns realm were resting on the giant tree in the middle of the sea. They took turns to fly into the sky, forming the night and day of the secret mandala. The former shrine had expanded more than 10 times, turning into a huge and glorious palace complex. The shrine was located in the center of the central axis of Firmament City. The Spirit World Shrine was also on this central axis. The Spirit World Shrine was independent from the previous shrine and became a separate shrine complex. The huge golden arch stood on a high platform in the square inside the Spirit World Shrine. In addition to the huge golden arch, there were many high platforms around the square. Those high platforms were empty, and there were no other golden arches, which seemed a little out of place. Looking at the empty high platform in the square of the Spirit World Shrine, a thought appeared in Xiaoping's mind. Could it be that the Spirit World Shrine could accommodate other golden arches? He would probably have to wait until he entered the spiritual realm again to ask Elder Mu about this. The former barracks of Storm Cavalry appeared in the north of this huge city, covering hundreds of square kilometers. The huge barracks were divided into many areas. The barracks of Storm Cavalry only occupied a small part of the area. There were other barracks facilities in the barracks where elite slave soldiers could be summoned. The giant tribe, which had not been there before, could be seen now. In the east of Firmament City, on the top of a mysterious and steep mountain covered with white snow, there was a tall building. The words Assassin Hall were written on the top of the tall building. It became a place for summoning assassins. The reliefs of summoning assassins were placed in the Assassin Hall. They were all about the stories of those assassins that Xiaoping had fused with. In the huge city, all kinds of artisan workshops were gathered in different areas. There were also many empty places in the city that seemed to be used to build other facilities. The pharmacists gathered in the valley outside the city and opened up a Medicine King Valley. The 6 Sun realm was indeed an important watershed in the realm of summoners. There were too many changes in this secret mandala, and it could only be described as earth-shattering. For a moment, Xiaoping felt a little dazzled. It was difficult to count all the changes. However, although the secret mandala had changed a lot, the people in the mandala were still the ones that Xiaoping had summoned. Previously, there were not many people summoned. With the changes in the mandala, this small god kingdom suddenly became sparsely populated. Even the central city did not have many people. The streets were empty, and only a few elite slave soldiers with spears on their backs were wandering around the city walls. In the vast fields outside the city, there were not many busy farmers. The small prototype of the god kingdom urgently needed people to fill it. According to the theories of some summoners, this realm was the starting point for summoners to condense their god kingdom and become gods. Xiaoping opened his eyes and stepped out of the bathtub with a splash. He moved his body and adapted to the changes in his body. Then, he put his clothes back on and waved his hand to put away the bathtub. From this moment onward, he was a genuine 6-Sun realm summoner, and no one would be able to question his identity anymore. With this advancement, his strength in all aspects, including the combat power of his summons, had increased tremendously. However, a new problem had appeared. Xiaoping rubbed his face. Damn it, I don't know how many people I have to summon to fill up the secret mandala. A god kingdom without people is just an empty shell. Even if I summon the farmer, who consumes the least amount of god power, I still have to summon a few million people. If I rely on my own god power to recover naturally, I don't know how long it will take. Do I have to take drugs? How much would I have to take? Not to mention the money. I might not be able to complete this goal even if I take so many drugs until I want to puke. I don't know what the secret mandala of the other 6-Sun summoners are like. How will those experts solve this problem? He could not find an answer to this question at the moment, so he could only put aside for now. In any case, being able to advance to the 6-Sun realm was something worth celebrating. If it wasn't in the god-slaying bug world, a 6-Sun realm summoner would already be considered a powerhouse amongst summoners in the eyes of many people. They would be able to guard an area. Xiaoping pulled himself together again. He took out the 7-star sword whip and flew into the temple in front of him. The moment he entered the temple, The water shield around Xia Pingon disappeared. The huge water pressure directly acted on his body. His god power was completely blocked here. In the temple, 3 mermaid puppets held tridents in their hands and charged towards Xia Pingon like torpedoes. The mermaid puppet that rushed to the front stabbed its trident towards Xia Pingon's neck. Clang! Xia Pingon used the great sword in his hand to block the trident. The powerful force in his hand directly pushed the mermaid's hands away. Then he slashed with his sword and directly chopped off the mermaid's head, causing it to sink down. The first mermaid puppet was instantly dealt with by Xia Pingon. The second mermaid puppet rushed over. Before it could reach Xia Pingon grabbed the trident of the previous mermaid puppet and threw it at the mermaid puppet. The trident pierced through the mermaid puppet's chest and sank down again. The third mermaid puppet rushed over and stabbed its trident into Xia Pingon's back. Xia Pingon's body slid in the water and easily dodged it. Then he shook the 7-star sword whip, and the great sword instantly turned into a long whip. It drew an arc in the water and caught up to the mermaid puppet like lightning. The mermaid puppet's body was instantly split in half from the waist down. After advancing to the 6th Sun realm, Xia Pingon had an easier time dealing with these mermaid puppets. Xia Pingon shook the whip and retracted it. With a crack, it turned into a great sword. The other mermaid puppets did not come over. Xia Pingon's body was like an arrow as he quickly passed through the shrine and swam out from the other side of the shrine. Once he came out of the shrine, he could use his divine power freely again. Xia Pingon summoned a water shield to protect his body and then quickly swam up the shrine. This shrine was inside a bowl-shaped sealed water body. According to True Monarch Nether River's introduction, after passing this stage, he would have to leave the water body and come to the surface. A few minutes later, Xia Pingon's figure soared into the sky from the bottom of a lake amidst the splashes of water, and then landed steadily on the shore. In front of him was a huge cave. The water body the shrine was in was just a quiet lake inside the cave. There was a cave entrance in the cave that led outside. Light shone through the cave entrance. Xia Pingon, who had landed on the ground, was about to walk out of the cave. Just as he reached the cave entrance, something strange happened. A strange black shadow jumped out from the ground as fast as lightning. The short sword in his hand was extremely fast. A cold light flashed as it directly slashed at Xia Pingon's throat. That short sword carried terrifying ice and fire damage. The moment the sword was drawn, Xia Pingon's body was frozen. When the short sword approached him, terrifying flames started burning. The light and shadow on Xia Pingon's body suddenly dissipated. An elite slave soldier under the light and shadow had its throat slit by that assassin's sword. It turned into light and shadow and dissipated in the scorching flames. This was an illusion cast on the elite slave soldier. The moment the assassin's strike succeeded, Xia Pingon's huge sword suddenly flashed out from the nearby void. When the elite slave soldier's body turned into light and dissipated, Xia Pingon's huge sword split the assassin into 2 halves from head to toe. At the same time, the assassin also turned into light and dissipated. This was the mantis stalking the cicada, unaware of the oriole behind. Xia Pingon's figure appeared at the side. His eyes flashed, and the corner of his mouth carried a trace of a sneer. As expected, someone had summoned an assassin to ambush him here. This was a demon-slaying assassin. If he hadn't been careful, he might have really died just now. Just like how those peak assassins couldn't reveal who hired them, the divine power aura of the summoned demon-slaying assassin was also chaotic. Although he couldn't determine who wanted to harm him from the summoned demon-slaying assassin, he was certain that someone wanted to take his life in this fallen land of the gods. The fallen land of the gods was actually filled with danger. Xia Pingon quickly walked out of the cave. Outside the cave, there were mountains and valleys with strange peaks. The surroundings were shrouded in mist, and no one could be seen. However, there was a faint smell of blood in the air. Xia Pingon quickly found the source of that smell of blood. A person wearing a red robe was lying in the grass near the cave. Half of his head was burnt, and there were more than 10 fatal wounds on his body. That smell of blood had already attracted a large swarm of flies, buzzing as they flew around the corpse. People had already started dying. It seemed that his decision to quickly advance to the Sixth Sun realm before entering the shrine was correct. Chapter 419. Xia Pinggan soared into the sky and used an illusion to conceal his figure. He flew directly toward the sky behind the cave. As he flew, he recalled the words that true Lord Mingi had told him. Come out of the entrance of the mountain cave. There are many monsters in the mountains. Don't go there. Don't go there. Many people have been killed in the mountains without gaining anything. The entrance of the mountain cave is in the west of the deity Fallen Land. Fly towards the east. About 1 day later, if everything goes well, you will see a huge golden palace floating in the void. That palace is most likely to hide an immortal weapon. Besides immortal weapons, there might be other treasures in that palace. You can take them out. You'll be able to take them out of the palace. You'll be able to take them out of the palace. That palace was like a maze with many levels inside. It was very mysterious and very dangerous. The rooms in the palace were like living creatures that were constantly changing. According to the previous experiences, the difficulty of the first level was different every time. However, there was a room in the palace where there were many giant black snakes with wings. That giant snake was actually a special kind of creature that was used to nurture divine artifacts. When you saw that giant snake, you could use your spell to enter the giant snake's body and see if there was anything inside. The key to enter the palace with the huge snake is in a special room. Only summoned assassins can enter that room. Based on previous experiences, demon-slaying assassins can enter that room and take the key out. It doesn't matter even if you fail several times. There are flying yakshas in the sky of the land of the fallen gods. They are very difficult to deal with, as they are very sensitive to summoners' waves of divine energy. Once they use their summoning skills, other flying yakshas can sense them from hundreds of miles away. You have to be careful. You will only stay in the land of the fallen gods for 7 days. When the time is up, you will be automatically teleported out of the land of the fallen gods. Until now, we have not figured out the situation inside the palace floating in the sky. We don't know the complete situation of the land of the fallen gods either. We only know part of it. If you encounter any unexpected situation, you can act according to the situation. That was all the information that Lord Mingi told Xia Pinggan about after he passed the test of the mermaid puppet. Actually, the information was very limited. It only pointed out the direction of Xia Pinggan's group. The palace in the eastern sky was the most valuable target that True Monarch, Nether River, and the others had discovered several times. Therefore, almost everyone's target was that mysterious palace. If there was enough time, Xia Pinggan actually wanted to stroll around the other places here to see if there were any other discoveries. However, he didn't have much time to enter this place this time, so he could only fly toward the east step by step to explore the places that were most likely to find divine artifacts and other treasures. Xia Pinggan could not see the others in the sky. Because he was moving, he could only try his best to hide himself using illusionary skills. However, after flying in the sky for several hours, Xia Pinggan encountered some flying yakshas in the distance. Those flying yakshas had long horns on their heads. They were pitch black and as tall as humans. With huge bat-like wings on their backs and steel forks in their hands, they flew very fast in the sky. When Xia Pinggan discovered those flying yakshas, he was still 7,000 to 8,000 meters away from them. Those flying yakshas suddenly penetrated through the clouds, catching Xia Pinggan unprepared. When Xia Pinggan thought that those flying yakshas had not discovered him, those yakshas flapped their wings and flew straight towards him. F***CK. This illusionary skill doesn't work on those flying yakshas. Without any hesitation, Xia Pinggan hurriedly accelerated towards the east, hoping to get rid of those flying yakshas. Over 10 minutes later, those flying yakshas caught up with him. Go to hell. Xia Pinggan took out the 7-star sword whip and directly rushed over. With just one sword, he directly split the body of a flying yaksha and the steel fork in its hand into two, turning it into a rain of blood that fell from the sky. With another slash, another flying yiksha was dismembered and fell from the sky along with its weapon. In the face of Xia Pinggan's heptagram sword whip, the pitchfork in the yiksha's hand was as weak as a stick of firewood. There was no way it could withstand the attack and would be cut in two. The power of a top-grade soul armament was on full display. Against normal weapons, it had an overwhelming advantage. After killing 3 flying yikshas in a row, the remaining ones were frightened and scattered at once. They stared at the 7-star sword whip in Xia Pinggan's hand, their eyes flashing with greed and their mouths letting out squawking sounds. Seeing that those flying yikshas did not dare to come closer, Xia Pinggan thought that he had scared them. He quickly turned around and continued to fly east. But after flying for a while, Xia Pinggan frowned. 2 of the yikshas had already flown into the distance and did not follow him. The other 2 flying yikshas were still far behind him. Are those 2 flying away to get reinforcements? These 2 are responsible for keeping an eye on me. Xia Pinggan turned around and pretended to go towards a flying yiksha bug. That flying yiksha was startled and hurriedly retreated, always keeping a distance of 300 to 400 meters from Xia Pinggan. When Xia Pinggan turned around, it flew over again. Damn it, it really is. At this distance, he might not be able to kill the flying yikshas, even if he used the summoner's skill. Perhaps he might even attract the flying yikshas around him. Xia Pinggan gritted his teeth and flew east with all his strength. 2 hours later, a large number of flying yikshas chased after him. There were about 700 to 800 of them. 1 day later, in the east, a huge golden palace covering an area of more than 100 square kilometers was floating in the sky. The 2 female disciples of the Black Dragon Gate were the first to arrive in a flash. They landed on the square at the main entrance of the palace. Then, Chu Yitong of the Wan Shun sect flew to the square outside the palace with the other 5 people in white robes fluttering in the air. Compared to the 2 female disciples of the Black Dragon sect, the people of the Wan Shun sect were in a bit of a mess. Chu Yitong looked fine, but the clothes of 2 of the disciples behind him were torn, and one of them had a wound on his shoulder. Half of his sleeve was stained with dark red blood. Chapter 420. Junior Brother Hong, are you okay? Chu Yitong immediately came to the injured summoner and asked with concern after checking the wound on his shoulder, Junior Brother Hong, are you okay? Senior Brother Chu, I'm fine. The bleeding has stopped. The injured Junior Brother Hong frowned slightly, but still smiled. Fortunately, the steel forks of the flying yikshas are not poisonous. This injury won't affect my casting of spells. Chu Yitong nodded and looked at the others with a serious face. Junior Brother Hong was injured just now. When we enter the palace later, Junior Brother Hong will be among us. Junior Brother Fan, you'll be in charge of the rear. I'll still be the vanguard. Everyone, take the time to rest and take elixirs to recover your divine power. The other summoners of the Wan Shun sect all nodded. They had no objection to this arrangement. Yesterday, not long after they came out of the cave, they encountered a large number of flying yikshas. They fought and retreated for a day before arriving here. They had consumed a lot of divine power and physical strength, so when they landed, they took the time to rest and take elixirs to recover their strength. Everyone, including the 2 female disciples of the Black Dragon sect, took the time to take elixirs and rest. They were ready to enter the Golden Palace in their best condition. This was the entrance to the palace, which could only be entered from here. There was a no-fly formation on the palace, so no one could fly above the palace. They could only enter from here. There was a towering palace tower in front of them. That tower was more than 100 meters tall and flashed with a layer of golden luster. Below the tower, the Vermilion Palace Gate was closed. It was imposing and majestic with a vast and mighty divine aura. The tower had a cornice and arched roof, and on the entrance of the city gate, there were a few words similar to the words on the Rel Pearl, but no one present could recognize them. After they rested for less than 10 minutes, another person flew in. It was Meng Ziki, who looked like a scholar. Meng Ziki's hair was disheveled and his clothes were tattered. His face was pale, and he cut a sorry figure. As soon as he landed on the ground, he gasped for breath. Then he took out a bunch of medicinal pills and stuffed them into his mouth. "Did you see Long Huan?" Chu Yitong walked over and asked. Meng Ziki panted and shook his head. "Brother Long didn't come out with us. I didn't see him after I left the cave." After saying that, Meng Ziki sat cross-legged on the ground and began to recuperate. Before entering the palace, everyone wanted to adjust themselves to their best condition. Chu Yitong looked at the distant sky and frowned slightly. In the blink of an eye, several powerful spell fluctuations flashed in the distant sky. In the distance, a fire dragon could be seen circling in the sky, clearing out an area. A large number of flying yikshaws fell from the sky like dumplings. Then, the 5 red-robed summoners representing Old Monster Tian Hua quickly flew over and landed on the ground. Among the 5 people, 3 were injured, and one of them was seriously injured. When he landed, he staggered and almost fell. Their faces were pale, and they were not in a good condition. Before, there were 7 of them, but now there were only 5. After landing, the 5 people quickly took out all kinds of elixirs and stuffed them into their mouths. After less than 2 minutes, there was another fluctuation of divine power in the distant sky. A sword formation flew and crushed dozens of flying yikshaws in the air. Then, the sword formation flew directly above the square. Above the sword formation were the 13 people brought by Supreme Wuchun. Each of the 13 summoners stepped on a long sword and flew with ease. The long swords of the 13 people formed a sword formation. This sword formation not only allowed them to fly, but also allowed them to attack the flying yikshaws when necessary. Therefore, the 13 people seemed to be relatively relaxed, and not a single one of them was injured. Interesting. Immortal Wu Chen actually used a summoner's celestial device to display the sword skills of a warrior and a sword cultivator. The long sword celestial device can fly and form a sword formation to attack the flying yikshaws. During long-distance flight, it can also reduce the consumption of divine power. It's really ingenious. Chu Yitong commented when he saw the people of Immortal Wu Chen land. When the 13 people of Immortal Wu Chen landed on the ground, the 5 red-robed summoners of Old Monster Tianhua glared at them. They gnashed their teeth and looked at the 13 people with cold and hostile eyes. "What did you mean? You lured the flying yikshaws to us and killed one of us?" A red-robed man with a pink face and red lips walked over and asked coldly. He had a devilish temperament. "Nothing." Among the 13 people, a round-faced fat man walked out with a smile. "We didn't raise those flying yikshaws. How could we know where they wanted to fly? Besides, isn't it normal for people to die here? Haha, look at you. Why are there only 5 of you? You just arrived and 2 of you are dead. You seem to have a bad start. Don't be completely annihilated." The red-robed man retreated with a cold face. Everyone could feel that Old Monster Tianhua and Immortal Wu Chen's people were like fire and water. They were on the verge of a fight. "Ahem, have you seen Long Huan?" Chu Yitong walked over and asked the 13 people. "No." The fat man's face turned serious and he shook his head. After a few minutes, a black smoke passed through a group of flying yikshaws in the distance. After using the fireball skill to blast down a few flying yikshaws, it landed on the square. The black smoke dissipated. It was Rinju, who looked like a bamboo pole. Xiao Pingon still hasn't shown up. Did something happen? Just when Chu Yitong couldn't help but think about it, he suddenly heard Junior Brother Fan's voice. Junior Brother Fan pointed to the distant sky and said, "Senior Brother Chu, look, that flying yikshaw seems a bit strange." Not only did the people of the Wan Shan sect notice it, the others also noticed it. In the distant sky, there was a flying yikshaw flying towards them. The flying yikshaw was like a drunkard flying crookedly in the air as if it was struggling, as if it was going to fall from the sky at any time. It looked a little special. Just as everyone was looking at the flying yikshaw, a shadow suddenly flashed on the back of the yikshaw, revealing a person. That person was Long Huan. Long Huan was riding on the back of the yikshaw, allowing the yikshaw to carry him as it flew. Long Huan held a dagger in one hand and pressed it against the Yiksha's neck. There was also a smile on his face that made people's teeth ache. Damn, this is too flirtatious. He actually made the Yiksha carry him here. How'd he do it? The people who landed in the square outside the palace were all dumbfounded. As soon as Long Huan appeared, he instantly rose from the back of the Yiksha and kicked it down from the sky. Then, he quickly flew towards them. The flying Yikshas in the distance also noticed Dragon Mirage. They screamed and wanted to chase after him, but they were too far away. In the blink of an eye, Dragon Mirage entered the safe zone of the palace. The flying Yikshas that were chasing him couldn't help but flap their wings and stop in midair. After a few breaths, Long Huan laughed loudly and descended from the sky under everyone's gaze. Haha, everyone is here. It seems that I'm not late. Everyone looked at Long Huan and saw that his face was ruddy and he looked good. He didn't even lose a single hair. Junior brother Long Huan, are you okay? Chu Yitong couldn't help but ask. Haha, I'm fine. Why did you come here on a Yiksha? Xiao Pingon smiled. It turns out that the Yiksha is afraid of death and can be coerced. I caught a Yiksha and came here. What happened was simple to say, but it wasn't. Xiao Pingon used one-leaf vision to hide in the mountains and wait for an opportunity to catch a Yiksha that was chasing him. Then, he forced the Yiksha to carry him here. Under the effect of one-leaf vision, Xiao Pingon found that as long as he didn't move, even if the Yiksha was moving, his one-leaf vision wouldn't lose its effect. Xiao Pingon held a dagger to the Yiksha's neck. If it didn't obey, it would die. In the end, it had no choice but to obediently fly here. Although the Yiksha carried him, Xiao Pingon's body was also floating in the air. Basically, he was weightless. Therefore, the Yiksha could arrive here in time. After landing, Xiao Pingon glanced at the red-robed men brought by old weirdo Tianhua. When he found that 2 of them were missing, he started to think. Who was it that set up an ambush in the cave and wanted to kill him? Was the red-robed man's corpse outside the cave related to this? That assassin couldn't have been summoned by the red-robed man. If it was, the assassin would have disappeared as soon as the red-robed man died. Senior brother Chu, did you encounter those Yikshas after coming out of the cave? Xiao Pingon pulled Chu Yitong aside and asked him by voice transmission. We didn't encounter them when we came out of the cave. We only encountered them in the sky after flying for about 100 miles. Because there were too many flying Yikshas, we were all scattered and had to fight for ourselves. That's right, we didn't encounter any when we came out of the cave. Did anyone stay in the cave at that time? No one stayed behind. Everyone left together. Why are you asking this? Xiao Pingon revealed a smile as he squinted his eyes. Nothing. I'm just curious. They encountered those Yikshas over 100 miles away from the cave. After that, they were scattered. As Zhang Tai saw the corpse outside the cave, it meant that someone had returned to the cave after being scattered. Everyone knew that Zhang Tai would be the last one to come out of the cave. Additionally, they were heading in the opposite direction of the cave. Why did the red-robed man go back? He must have an ulterior motive. Aside from the red-robed man, there was at least one other person who had returned to the cave and summoned the assassin. That red-robed man might have discovered the other person who had returned to the cave and accidentally bumped into him, resulting in him dying at the hands of the other person. Interesting. Aside from the red-robed man, there was at least one other person who wanted to take his life. Chapter 4:21. Xiao Pingon had just spoken a few words with Chu Yitong when Meng Ziki came over and asked with concern, Brother Long, are you all right? When they were talking, Xiao Pingon had blocked the others, so they could not hear what they were talking about. At most, they could only see a short exchange between them. Thanks for your concern, Brother Meng. I'm fine. Xiao Pingon turned around and greeted Meng Ziki. Brother Meng and Brother Zhu, are you all right? We're fine too. Yesterday, not long after we came out of the cave, we were chased by those flying Yikshas and separated. Brother Long, you should team up with us later so we can take care of each other after we enter. Meng Ziki seemed very enthusiastic. On the other side, Ren Zhu just nodded to Xiao Pingon, which was considered a greeting. Brother Meng, I'm a disciple of Wanshin sect. I just want to get to know you and ask you many questions. Xiao Pingon said modestly, if Brother Ming doesn't mind, how about joining us? Oh, I almost forgot about your identity. Since Brother Long has chosen to team up with Wan Shen's sect, it's only right. Sorry for my rudeness. I won't disturb you. Meng Ziki said goodbye with a smile. As long as he was with the people of Wan Shen's sect, it would be difficult for the hidden guy to find a chance to attack him. Even if the person who attacked him was one of the 6 people of Wan Shen's sect, he would not dare to do anything to him as long as he was in the team. Once he was exposed and left this place, only death would await him. This was the reason why Xia Pingan wanted to be with the people of Wan Shen's sect. Another consideration was that if old weirdo Tianhua ordered those red-robed men to attack him, then the other red-robed men would probably find a chance to attack him after he entered the cave. 5 against 1, that was Taixiong County. Xia Pingan was not sure about that, but following Wan Shen's sect could eliminate this concern. Senior Brother Chu, can you introduce me to the other senior brothers and sisters? Xia Pingan said to Chu Yitong as soon as Meng Ziki walked away. I was just about to introduce them to you. Chu Yitong directly pulled Xia Pingan to the front of the official disciples of the Wan Shen sect. He pointed at the one with the injured shoulder and introduced him. This is junior brother Hong Indeo. He fought bravely and was injured because he was responsible for covering the rear. Hong Indeo, with short hair and strong temperament. Greetings, senior brother Hong. Xia Pingan bowed to Hong Indeo. In Wan Shen's sect, the higher the realm, the higher the seniority, and the higher the status. Summoners of the same realm, the one who joined the sect first was the senior brother. Among all the people here, Xia Pingan was the last to join Wan Shen's sect, so all the people here were his senior brothers and sisters. I didn't expect junior brother Long to have mastered the soul-splitting technique. This time, when we go out, can junior brother Long refine a soul tool for me? If I had a soul tool in my hand before, I wouldn't have been injured. Hong Indeo was not polite at all. He was very straightforward and directly said to Xia Pingan, as long as senior brother Hong is ready, I have no problem. Xia Pingan also said happily. Good, then it's a deal. Hong Indeo said happily. It was the dream of many summoners to have a soul tool. Among the few people here, the only summoner who had a soul tool was Chu Yitong. The others didn't have any soul tools, only magic tools. This is junior brother Fan Yixian. This is junior brother Gu Yulong. This is junior sister Gu Yuqing. This is junior sister Chi Yu. Chu Yitong introduced the others to Xia Pingan. That Fan Yixian looked like a handsome guy, and he was more lively. That Gu Yulong was slightly older, and his eyes were very lively, rolling around constantly. When he smiled, he looked a little cunning and greasy. Gu Yuqing's appearance was average, and she was taciturn, as if she didn't like to talk. After Chu Yitong's introduction, she only nodded to Xia Pingan. As for that Chi Yu, she was a beautiful woman with single eyelids. Her eyes were bold, and compared to Gu Yuqing, she had a completely different personality. Junior brother Long, you just promised junior brother Hong to refine a soul tool for him. This bowl of water should be fair, otherwise it will be easy to offend people. You see, among the 6 of us, except for senior brother Chu, no one else has a soul tool. Senior brother Chu only has a soul tool for self-defense, and he lacks other soul tools. That Gu Yulong said to Xia Pingan with a smile. It's rare for us to be able to gather here. After this time, as long as you are ready, I can refine a soul tool for each of you. Xia Pingan said generously. Junior brother Long is really straightforward. Gu Yulong gave Xia Pingan a thumbs up and was not stingy with his praise. In the future, if junior brother Long encounters any trouble in the ancient god cult, feel free to come to me. Haha. Thank you, senior brother Gu. Refining soul tools might not be an easy task for other soul masters who didn't master the complete soul-splitting secret method, but for Xia Pingan, as long as he didn't use his own soul power to refine soul tools, it was very easy for him to refine soul tools. At this moment, the land of the fallen gods was full of danger, so Xia Pingan didn't hesitate to use a few soul tools to build a good relationship with these people from the Wan Shen sect. If he was really in danger, they would help him. It was also a kind of wisdom to be able to make people around you smile when they think of you and feel that you can take advantage of them. Hearing that Xia Pingan agreed to refine soul tools for everyone after they got out, even the quiet Gu Yuqing was shocked. She took a deep look at Xia Pingan and thanked him. "Thank you, junior brother Long." Chu Yitong also laughed. He felt that Long Huan was a little strange before, but now it seemed that Long Huan was quite cute and sensible. "Have you all fused with the Saint Master's realm pearl?" Xia Pingan thought of this and couldn't help but ask curiously. "Not yet." Fan Yixian shook his head. "In the past few years, we were all receiving training to enter the land of the fallen gods and didn't get distracted to hunt those insects. Elderly told us that as long as we can get out of here, we can fuse with the Saint Master's realm pearl and the Blacksmith Master's realm pearl." Chu Yitong sighed softly. "Actually, it's too dangerous to enter the land of the fallen gods. None of us can guarantee that we can leave this place alive. Moreover, the abilities of the Sacred Master Realm Pearl and the Weapon Forging Master Realm Pearl seem to be useless here. Therefore, instead of wasting those precious Realm Pearls, why don't we use those Realm Pearls as rewards for those who can leave this place?" When Xia Pingan heard this, he immediately became excited. If that was the case, then after he got out of here, he should be able to obtain the Saint Master's Realm Pearl and the Blacksmith Master's Realm Pearl as rewards. Chapter 422. Everyone rested for a few hours in the square outside the Golden Palace. Some took elixirs, some rested, and some closed their eyes to meditate. Xia Pingan didn't make a fuss. After eating a divine power pill and a fasting pill, he drank some water and sat down in meditation at the Wan Shun sect to recover his energy. After a few hours, he heard Chu Yitong's voice. "Junior brothers and sisters, let's get ready to go in." Hearing the sound, Xia Pingan opened his eyes and stood up. He found that everyone in the square was almost ready. They were all rubbing their fists and preparing to enter the palace. "Junior brother Long, are you ready?" Chu Yitong asked. "Ready, then let's go in." Chu Yitong led everyone to the huge palace gate. People from other sects also gathered in front of the palace gate. They looked solemn and took out their weapons. Of the 31 people who had entered the fallen god land, only 29 were left. "Everyone, we don't know what's behind this door. The previous few times we came here, we encountered different situations after entering the palace gate. There were a few times when we inexplicably entered an ancient battlefield. There were also all kinds of strange places and met all kinds of strange people. Should we discuss a contingency plan first?" The one who spoke was one of the leaders of Supreme, Dustless's group. "If we enter the ancient battlefield, we'll join hands to fight the enemy. When we join hands, no one is allowed to stab each other in the back. If anyone dares to stab each other, we'll kill him together. If we enter those strange places, we'll rely on our own abilities. Do you agree?" Meng Ziki said. "Agree. Agree." Everyone nodded. Xia Pingan raised his head and looked at the tower of the palace gate. He recognized the Xiaozhuan characters on the gate. There were 6 words: "Wonderful Performance Real Illusion Deity Palace." Xia Pingan didn't know what it meant, so he kept quiet and followed everyone to the gate. The 2 female disciples of the Black Dragon Gate didn't say a word, but they took the lead. When the 2 of them reached the gate, they reached out and pressed their hands on the gate. Then they disappeared as if they were sucked in by the gate. The others were the same. They pressed their hands on the gate and were sucked in, disappearing in an instant. "I'll go over first. Everyone follow me," Chu Yitong said as he took 2 steps forward and pressed his hand on the palace door. Then he disappeared with a whoosh. Seeing this, Xia Pingan also took a step forward and pressed his hand on the palace door. The palace door was ice cold, and before Xia Pingan could react, he felt a huge suction force coming from the palace door, and his entire body was sucked in. In a blur, Xia Pingan entered the deity palace. However, the scene that appeared in front of him shocked him. What appeared in front of him was not a palace, but a wilderness. This wilderness was very strange. It was surrounded by a gray fog, and in this wilderness, there were huge bronze mirrors that were as tall as a person floating in the air. There were at least 70 or 80 bronze mirrors, and each of them was bright enough to reflect a person's reflection. It was unknown why they were erected here. The people who passed through the gate appeared here one after another. Everyone looked at the wilderness and the bronze mirrors in the wilderness and looked at each other. They didn't know how to deal with the situation in front of them, because this situation had never happened before. Senior Brother Chu, what do we do? The situation in front of us doesn't seem to have happened before. Gu Yulong looked at the strange bronze mirrors in the wilderness in front of him and frowned. He directly threw the question to Chu Yitong. Chu Yitong also stared at the bronze mirrors and frowned slightly. He didn't rashly walk over. The others had the same thought. They didn't know what the bronze mirrors were. If they rashly walked over and stepped into a pit, it would be a tragedy. After entering this place, it was the easiest place to die. Everyone, don't move. Let me try, Chu Yitong said. He waved his hand and summoned a meter-long icicle. He directly shot it at a bronze mirror 100 meters away. Just as the icicle shot out more than 20 meters, the huge bronze mirror that was aimed at flashed and shot out an identical icicle. The two icicles collided in the air like two arrows colliding with two bullets. With a boom, they shattered and turned into ice shards all over the ground. Those bronze mirrors can actually copy spells. Seeing this situation, the others also tried to test it. In an instant, fireballs, icicles, throwing knives, and arrows were all shot towards those bronze mirrors. Without exception, as soon as those spells were shot out, the bronze mirrors on the other side would release the same spell, canceling out the spells on the other side. In an instant, the wilderness was filled with spells that collided and dissolved each other. Seeing this situation, Xia Pingon waved his hand and summoned an elite slave soldier. As soon as that elite slave soldier was summoned, it ran towards a bronze mirror. Then, the bronze mirror on the other side flashed and summoned another elite slave soldier. The elite slave soldier summoned by Xia Pingon threw javelins, and the other elite slave soldier also threw javelins. The two elite slave soldiers threw javelins towards each other while dodging the javelins thrown by the other. They jumped and ran in the wilderness and rapidly approached each other. In the blink of an eye, they collided and began to stab each other with their javelins. 10 seconds later, the two elite slave soldiers pierced each other's chests with their javelins and then turned into light and dissipated. In addition to copying spells, those bronze mirrors could also copy summoned figures. Seeing Xia Pingon summon elite slave soldiers, a red-robed man on true Monarch Wuchen's side summoned a Demon Slayer assassin and rushed towards those bronze mirrors. Another Demon Slayer assassin appeared in the bronze mirror on the other side. The two Demon Slayer assassins rapidly exchanged blows in the wilderness. After a short while, they both hit each other's vital points at the same time and turned into light and dissipated. Rin Zhu frowned and waved her hand, summoning a fierce tiger covered in flames and pouncing towards that side. A similar fierce tiger also appeared in the other mirror and pounced towards this side. The two fierce tigers collided and bit each other. After a short while, they also dissipated. A red-robed man directly summoned 10 cavalrymen and rushed towards the bronze mirror on horseback. 10 identical cavalrymen appeared in the bronze mirror on the other side. The cavalrymen of both sides collided in the wilderness and fought each other. In the blink of an eye, they were stabbed off their horses and dissipated together. After some probing, everyone stopped. Everyone seemed to understand that the copper mirrors could replicate any attack. No matter what you summoned, no matter what magical technique you unleashed, the copper mirrors would be able to produce the exact same thing you did. Guys, what should we do? Should we join hands and summon thousands of troops to push forward? The leader of True Monarch Wuchen's side asked. Those bronze mirrors will summon whatever we summon. I think that no matter how many things we summon, we won't be able to pass this stage. Chu Yitong shook his head. There must be a limit to the people and spells that those bronze mirrors can summon. As long as we can break through this limit, I think we can break through these bronze mirrors in front of us. The leader of True Monarch Wuchen's side continued. I think that the limit of those bronze mirrors isn't the people and spells that they can summon. In this world, there's one thing that those bronze mirrors can't completely imitate. A female disciple of the Black Dragon sect said calmly, "Oh, what is it? Us." As they spoke, everyone saw the two female disciples of the Black Dragon sect charging towards those bronze mirrors in the wilderness. The two bronze mirrors on the other side flashed, and two women who looked exactly like the female disciples of the Black Dragon sect walked out of the two bronze mirrors. Then they started fighting. The two female disciples of the Black Dragon sect who appeared from the bronze mirrors were also very powerful. Regardless of their spells or battle techniques, they seemed to be at the standard of a top 6 Sun Realm summoner. For a time, the wilderness was filled with the flames of spells and violent explosions. It was almost impossible to see the figures of the 4 people who were fighting. More than 10 minutes later, everything dissipated. The two female disciples of the Black Dragon sect who walked out of the bronze mirrors turned into light and shattered. The two bronze mirrors also shattered, and a door to a room appeared behind each of the broken bronze mirrors. The female disciple of the Black Dragon sect in the green dress opened a door and disappeared along with it. The female disciple of the Black Dragon sect in the black dress opened another door and disappeared as well. Chapter 4:23. So that's how it is. Seeing the two disciples of the Black Dragon sect disappear in front of everyone's eyes, everyone reacted at once. Only by defeating the other selves that appeared in the mirrors and defeating the people in the mirrors could they pass through here. Looking at the performance of the two female disciples of the Black Dragon sect, it would not be easy to defeat the other selves in the mirrors. Everyone had seen the danger involved. Victory and defeat were actually just a hair's breadth away. As soon as the two female disciples of the Black Dragon sect disappeared, Rinju was the first to rush forward. The mirror opposite her flashed, and another Rinju appeared. The two of them began to fight in the wilderness. It was really a fierce battle between dragons and tigers. Spells and close combat complemented each other. The 3 people on the side of Supreme, Dustless, also rushed forward. In an instant, there were 4 pairs of summoners fighting in the wilderness. The others were still watching. Some were eager to try. Some had grave expressions. Some were frowning, and some were already shrinking back. Xia Pingan glanced at the people around him and found that a red-robed man on old freak Tianhua's side was looking at him. Their gazes met, and the red-robed man immediately turned his gaze away, pretending to be indifferent. But it was this simple exchange of gazes that made Xia Pingan understand one thing. The red-robed man who had died outside the cave entrance had tried to kill him. The other red-robed men also knew. This was purely a judgment made by intuition, like a sixth sense. There was no evidence to support it, but Xia Pingan firmly believed it, and his heart suddenly skipped a beat. The female disciples of the Black Dragon sect have already entered. We can't fall behind. Everyone go in groups. Guyulong, you and I go first. After watching it for a few seconds, Chu Yitong directly told the other disciples of Wanshin's sect, after we pass it, the others could form groups of 2. Junior brother Long, you can go whenever you want. Only one person can pass each level and each gate. We don't know where those gates lead to. We might go to the same place or separate from each other. After passing this level, we will temporarily separate from each other. Be careful and don't be impulsive in case of trouble. Take care of yourselves first. If there's any chance, don't miss it. Although it's dangerous here, we might gain a lot of benefits. If there's any problem that you can't solve, you can retreat for the time being. Chu Yitong was indeed the leader and eldest senior brother of the group, selected by Elderly. At this time, he was very assertive. Well, senior brother Chu, I'll see if it's okay. I'm not mentally prepared at all. Gu Yulong shrank his neck, a greasy smile on his face, and said cunningly. Chu Yitong frowned slightly, but he didn't force him. Instead, he looked at Hong In and said, Junior brother Hong, you go with me. Okay. Hong In nodded. Without any hesitation, he directly jumped into the wilderness with Chu Yitong. The 2 bronze mirrors on the opposite side of the wilderness flashed, and Chu Yitong and Hong In walked out. Soon, the 2 sides faced each other and started fighting. Junior brother Long, Do you think senior brother Chu and junior brother Hong can pass through? Gu Yulong moved closer to Xia Pingan and chatted with him to get closer to Xia Pingan. Senior brother Chu is determined and calm. He has the demeanor of a general. He won't be affected by the people in the mirrors at all. He will definitely pass through. Senior brother Hong is also brave and fearless. Although he is injured and his movements are not affected, with senior brother Chu beside him, he should be able to pass through. Xia Pingan observed the scene and said casually, "Ah, why can junior brother Hong pass through with senior brother Chu?" Gu Yulong was stunned. Just now, senior brother Chu asked senior brother Gu to go with him because he wanted to help you at a critical moment. Since you don't appreciate it, senior brother Chu can only ask senior brother Hong, who was injured before, to go with him. I estimate that soon, when senior brother Chu gradually gains the upper hand, he will move the battlefield to senior brother Hong's side. After hearing Xia Pingan's words, Gu Yulong's expression was unreadable. He narrowed his eyes and looked at the fight in the field. He was a little hesitant. This stage shouldn't be too difficult, it's hard to say. The person in the mirror has a very small difference in strength between us and the person in the mirror. Look at the three people on perfected cultivator Wu Chen's side. One of them is a little hesitant. In the collision, he is always thinking about protecting himself. However, the person in the mirror who is fighting with him is completely unrestrained and fearless of death. That person is in danger. Xia Pingan pointed to the battlefield in the distance. This was a battle of life and death. There was an old saying in martial arts: it was better to think about advancing than to think about stopping. Originally, the disparity in strength between the two sides was about the same, but in this moment of thinking about advancing and stopping, the result could be reversed. Everything was as Xia Pingan expected. After a few minutes on the field, Chu Yitong's side gradually gained the upper hand and began to move towards Hong Indeo's side. The battlefield between the two sides gradually closed from more than 200 meters away to less than 100 meters away. Chu Yitong took advantage of the opportunity and shot a sharp icicle towards Hong Indeo's opponent. The icicle came from the side, and the angle was perfect. It blocked the attack of the mirror man opposite Hong Indeo, creating an excellent opportunity for Hong Indeo. Chu Yitong was stunned. Chu Yitong took advantage of the opportunity to attack Hong Indeo. Hong Indeo was also a ferocious person. He seized the opportunity and leaped. Just as the man in the mirror's attack was blocked, he leaped up and slashed the man in the mirror in front of him into two halves from head to toe, which then dissipated. Chu Yitong also pierced his opponent's throat at almost the same time. Both of them killed their opponents almost at the same time. The two mirrors shattered, revealing two portals. Chu Yitong looked back and gestured for the people behind him to follow. Then, he rushed towards his own portal. Hong Indeo also rushed towards his own portal. Just as Chu Yitong and Hong Indeo opened their portals and disappeared together with their portals, a scream came from afar. Among the three people on Supreme Wu Chen's side, the summoner who had been criticized by Xia Pingan only had time to let out a short scream before his neck was slashed by his other self in the mirror. His head rolled on the ground. The long sword in the summoner's hand only pierced through the shoulder of the person in the mirror. In the life and death battle, just now, the summoner who had been beheaded only hesitated for a moment before he made his move. The result was already out. He was the first summoner to die in front of everyone. Once the summoner died, his interspatial equipment dropped a lot of elixirs. The magic longsword in his hand also fell to the ground. The person in the mirror who had killed him retreated back into the mirror as if nothing had happened. Xia Pingan's judgment was too accurate. The other disciples of the Wanshan sect, who had heard Xia Pingan's words, looked at Xia Pingan with a different aura. There was admiration and surprise in their eyes. At the same time, Ren Zhu killed her opponent. Another mirror shattered, revealing a portal. Ren Zhu then disappeared behind the portal. "Senior brother Gu, let's go." Fan Yixian and Gu Yulong greeted each other and rushed towards the field. Gu Yulong looked at Gu Yuqing and Qiyu. He was too embarrassed to shrink back, so he could only grit his teeth and rush forward. The two people on Supreme Wu Chen's side killed their opponents. The mirror shattered, revealing two portals. The two people also quickly disappeared behind the new portal. Three more people on Supreme Wu Chen's side rushed forward. The red-robed men on Old Monster Tianhua's side were still waiting. 10 minutes later, Gu Yulong bore the sword strike of the man in the mirror. When a man in the mirror pierced through his thigh, he suddenly put away his long sword and grabbed the man in the mirror with both hands, gripping it tightly. Then, a terrifyingly hot flame erupted from his hands. Like a furnace, it burned the person in the mirror in front of him into ashes. Because the flame he released was too close to him, his hair and eyebrows were scorched by the flame. His clothes were also burned. He looked very miserable, but at least he won. Junior brother Fan, I can't take it anymore. I'm seriously injured and need to recuperate immediately. I'll take my leave first. Gu Yulong yelled strangely and summoned a ball of water to fall on himself, extinguishing the flames on his body. Then, with a limp, he rushed toward the door that had appeared in the blink of an eye, wearing his tattered clothes that were so badly burned that half of his buttocks were exposed. Seeing Gu Yulong's exposed, but Gu Yuqing turned her head in embarrassment. Qiyu directly spat. Meng Ziki also rushed forward. Xiao Pinggan did not move. Neither did Old Monster Tianhua's side. Xiao Pinggan felt that the red-robed man was secretly watching him. Junior sister Gu, let's go, Qiyu said to Gu Yuqing. Then, she looked at Xiao Pinggan. Junior brother Long, do you want to join us? You two senior sisters go first. I'll hold the line for you two. Xiao Pinggan smiled. Qiyu and Gu Yuqing directly jumped out. After a while, they started fighting with their opponents in the mirror. Xiao Pinggan squinted his eyes as he watched from the side. After more than 10 minutes, Xiao Pinggan suddenly jumped into the arena with the 7-star sword whip. The mirror opposite him flashed, and another Xiao Pinggan with the 7-star sword whip instantly appeared and rushed towards Xiao Pinggan. The battlefield that Xiao Pinggan chose was close to Gu Yuqing's side. Gu Yuqing was facing her opponent and was having a hard time. On the other hand, Qiyu had completely dominated the mountain. Fire! Xiao Pinggan roared angrily. A scorching flame appeared, and the sky-burning vermilion bird was summoned. It spread its wings in the air and flew towards the opponent in the mirror. The opponent in the mirror was not to be outdone. After shouting, "Fire!" he summoned another vermilion bird. Xiao Pinggan's vermilion bird flew in the air. After making a circle, the two vermilion birds collided in the air and turned into a rain of fire that scattered in all directions. Among the scattered rain of fire, one of them happened to shoot towards Gu Yuqing's opponent with a high temperature. A scorching flame directly flew from the sky and burned Gu Yuqing's opponent's calf, causing the figure in the mirror to stagger. Gu Yuqing seized the opportunity and killed her opponent with a single slash of her sword, causing him to dissipate into light. Chapter 424. While Xiao Pinggan was helping Gu Yuqing get rid of her opponent, Qiyu had also killed her opponent in the mirror at almost the same time. The two mirrors shattered, and two more doors appeared. Gu Yuqing naturally understood what was going on. That flame couldn't have been a coincidence. It could only be said to be a stroke of genius. Xiao Pinggan's control of spells had reached a terrifying level to be able to achieve such an effect. Gu Yuqing looked at Xiao Pinggan gratefully and waved her hand. A scorching fireball the size of a pot lid flew towards Xiao Pinggan's mirror in an attempt to help. However, as soon as her fireball flew out, a mirror not far away flashed, and a similarly huge fireball flew out. The two fireballs collided and melted at the same time. The mirror that had shot out the fireball began to flicker with light, as if something was about to change. Gu Yuqing was about to leap over to Xiao Pinggan to help him deal with his opponent in the mirror, but Xiao Pinggan had already shouted, "Senior sister Gu, senior sister Qi, quickly enter the door. I can deal with my opponent on my own. If you come over to help me, there might be other changes in the mirror. If something else comes out, it would be troublesome. The rules of this level don't allow us to gang up on these people in the mirror." As Xiao Pinggan spoke to the two women, he leapt up like lightning. His figure continuously changed positions in the air more than 10 times in a second. His 7-star sword whip collided with the opponent's 7-star sword whip dozens of times, creating a series of dense clanging sounds. Xiao Pingan and the man in the mirror exchanged blows. Their movements were so fast that they almost turned into two shadows. Qi Yu and Gu Yuqing naturally had good eyesight. Seeing that Xiao Pingan was able to talk to them while fighting, the two of them felt relieved. Junior brother Long, be careful. We'll go over first. Junior sister Gu, let's go. Qi Yu also called out to Xiao Pingan and took the lead in jumping toward her door. Junior brother Long, take care of yourself. Gu Yuqing also said, and then also jumped her own door. In the blink of an eye, the two women entered their own portal and disappeared before Xiao Pingan's eyes. Meng Ziki almost killed his mirror man at the same time. He leaped towards his door and disappeared in the blink of an eye. The three people on Immortal Wuchen's side also killed their opponents and entered the door. Xiao Pingan had been secretly paying attention to the 5 red-robed men on Old Monster Tianhua's side. After seeing Qi Yu and Gu Yuqing leave, the 5 men in red robes began to move. 2 of them directly leaped into the wilderness and started to fight with their mirror images. It was unknown whether it was intentional or not, but the 2 men in red robes who leaped into the field chose to attack from left and right, sandwiching Xiao Pingan in the middle. As the 2 men in red robes began to fight, they intentionally moved closer to Xiao Pingan's side. Xiao Pingan sneered secretly. At this moment, he was finally completely sure of one thing. The order to kill him should have been given to these red-robed men by Old Monster Tianhua. Otherwise, these red-robed men would not have acted in such a unified manner. It was also very strange. He had not seen Old Monster Tianhua before. Why would Old Monster Tianhua order these red-robed men to kill him before entering the land of the deceased gods? The only explanation was that old freak Tianhua had found out about the tiger bracing summoning skill that was exposed when he took the soul-stabilizing pearl. Old freak Tianhua had already guessed True Monarch Styx River's motive for using him. In order to prevent True Monarch Styx River and himself from succeeding, old freak Tianhua had ordered his red-robed companions to kill him before entering the land of the fallen gods. This was the most logical explanation. As for the other person who wanted to kill him, he was not sure who it was yet. Xiao Pingan instantly understood the cause and effect of this matter. Suddenly, an icicle and a fire arrow, one from the left and one from the right, shot toward Xiao Pingan at almost the same time. The angle was tricky and caught him off guard. The 2 red-robed men on the left and right of Xiao Pingan attacked Xiao Pingan at almost the same time as they fought with their mirror images. It seemed that they had made an unintentional mistake. In the process of fighting between experts of this level, if one party was suddenly obstructed by external forces, life and death would be decided in an instant. Fortunately, Xiao Pingan was prepared and had been on guard against his opponent. Although it looked like he was fighting fiercely with his mirror image, Xiao Pingan had gradually gained control of the battle. Xiao Pingan forced his mirror image back with a sword and stomped his foot on the ground. A thick water shield appeared beside him and surrounded him. The fire arrow and icicle hit Xiao Pingan's water shield at the same time, causing ripples to appear on the water shield. Xiao Pingan's opponent in the mirror slashed again, and the water shield dissipated in an instant. Xiao Pingan flew back and shouted angrily at the red-robed men. "What are you trying to do?" "Junior brother Long Huan, don't be nervous. You're fighting on the battlefield, and your battle is too close. It is normal to be affected by the spells. In such a situation, one is responsible for one's own life and death. Is there a problem?" One of the red-robed men said maliciously. "Haha, indeed. I'm a little nervous. One is responsible for one's own life and death. That's a good saying." Xiao Pingan laughed loudly. The red-robed men were slightly taken aback. They didn't think that Xiao Pingan would be so easy to talk to. But in the next second, they knew why Xiao Pingan said that. Xiao Pingan, who was in the middle of the battle, seemed to have been forced to retreat from the side by his opponent in the mirror. He quickly approached the red-robed man on Xiao Pingan's left, and then the chased Xiao Pingan suddenly roared, "Fire!" The scorching sky-burning vermilion bird appeared again and clashed with the mirror image's sky-burning vermilion bird. The two sky-burning vermilion birds clashed. Xiaoping's sky-burning vermilion bird didn't seem to be a match for the mirror image. It immediately turned into a bright and scorching pillar of fire and blasted towards the red-robed man who had just shot a fire arrow at him. The red-robed man was fighting with his mirror image. When he saw Xiaoping's sky-burning vermilion bird turn into a pillar of fire and blasted towards him, he was shocked. He hurriedly summoned a water shield. But just as the water shield was summoned, the pillar of fire had already blasted towards him. The pillar of fire blasted the water shield apart, and a scorching flame wrapped around the red-robed man's body. The red-robed man's left hand was instantly burned to ashes. Half of his body was on fire, and he screamed in agony. The red-robed man's mirror image didn't miss this opportunity. It rushed over and slashed down with its sword, directly splitting the red-robed man's body in two and killing him instantly. "Long Huan, what are you doing?" The red-robed man's angry roar sounded from outside the arena. "Ha ha! I'm sorry, but this red-robed senior martial brother has also been affected by my spell technique. Everyone is responsible for their own deaths." Xiaopinggan laughed heartily as he leaped into the air. He used a few ice spikes to destroy the shockwave from the sky-scorching vermilion bird summoned by the figure in the mirror. Most of the power of the sky-burning vermilion bird that he had summoned just now had been transferred to the red-robed man who had just been killed. How could an ordinary water shield withstand the high temperature of the sky-burning vermilion bird? Good job! Everyone on True Monarch Wuchen's side cheered loudly for Xiaopinggan when they saw that the red-robed man had been killed. The expressions of the red-robed men outside the arena became even more unsightly. Xiaopinggan retreated in another direction while continuously summoning ice cones to bombard his mirror image. The mirror image followed suit and summoned ice cones one after another. Those ice cones turned into ice shards that scattered in all directions. Xiaopinggan's long sword fiercely slammed into those scattered ice shards as they clashed with the mirror image. Those ice shards carried the terrifying power of Xiaopinggan's long sword and flew directly toward the red-robed man on Xiaopinggan's right. They were as dense as raindrops, fragmented and small, making it impossible to guard against them. That red-robed man was fighting with his mirror image. At the crucial moment, that red-robed man still had to defend against Xiaopinggan's ice shards. As he was multitasking, he revealed a flaw in the blink of an eye, and a finger-long ice shard pierced through his abdomen. His body froze for a moment before his mirror image's sword pierced through his heart, and he fell to the ground. In just a few breaths of time, the two red-robed men on the arena had died an unnatural death and had fallen in this wilderness. The red-robed men outside the arena were furious. "My apologies, this red-robed senior brother has also been affected by my spell. Everyone is responsible for their own lives." Xiaopinggan laughed heartily. Without waiting for the red-robed man outside the arena to charge forward again, he chopped off the head of his mirror image's opponent with a single slash of his sword. The mirror opposite him shattered, revealing a door. Xiaopinggan did not delay at all and immediately charged into that door, disappearing behind it in the blink of an eye. Another two red-robed men were killed. Suddenly, there were only 3 red-robed men left in the arena. There were still 7 people on perfected Lord Wu Chen's side outside the arena. When they saw that there were only 3 red-robed men left, the 7 people sneered and approached the 3 red-robed men directly. The remaining 3 red-robed men saw that the situation was not right, so they gritted their teeth and all rushed into the wilderness. The people on perfected Lord Wu Chen's side also rushed forward. Those mirrors seemed to have their own rules. If a summoner who went into the arena used a spell to attack another mirror image, those mirrors would react and instantly release the same spell to counteract the summoner's spell. However, if the summoner's spell accidentally affected another summoner, those mirrors would not react at all. A few minutes later, another 2 red-robed men were affected by the spell outside the arena in the process of fighting with their mirror images and died instantly. In the end, only 1 red-robed man quickly killed his mirror image's opponent and got rid of the spell's interference. leaving this place alive through the door that had appeared. On perfected Lord Wu Chen's side, another one was sacrificed and 3 were injured, but they also passed this stage. I wish everyone a happy Chinese Valentine's Day and that you can all find the love of your life. Chapter 425. Xiao Pingan pushed open the door and stepped out. The world in front of him changed. Just a moment ago, he was still in the misty wilderness, but in the blink of an eye, he was surrounded by snow. A lake appeared in front of him, and he was standing by the lake. Snow fell from the sky. The sky, clouds, mountains, and water were all white. It was like a freehand landscape painting. In the distance, he could see a long embankment in the middle of the lake, connecting the 2 sides. The willow trees by the embankment were bleak, like ink stains. There was no one by the embankment. Everything was silent and quiet, with an indescribable charm. When Xiao Pingan stepped into this place, the door disappeared. When Xiao Pingan first saw the scene in front of him, he felt an inexplicable sense of familiarity. This lake, this water, this mountain, this embankment in the middle of the lake, it was so familiar. Westlake. Xiao Pingan's mind suddenly jolted. The scene in front of him immediately matched the scene of Westlake in his mind. He looked into the distance again. The place where Leifeng Pagoda was locked up was covered in a layer of pure white snow. The huge Leifeng Pagoda was like a lonely snowman in the snow. However, under the snow, one could still see the layers of ochre brick pagoda core. For a historian like Xiao Pingan, he only needed to look at the Leifeng Pagoda to determine the approximate time of the scene in front of him. It should be after the Ming Jiajing dynasty, because during the Ming Jiajing dynasty, the wooden eaves of the Leifeng Pagoda were destroyed by war. Why was he here? Xiao Pingan was also at a loss. Everything in this divine palace was indeed too strange. But there should be a reason for entering here. Xiao Pingan quickly ran by the side of Westlake, and at the same time observed his surroundings. Xiao Pingan actually wanted to fly, but he found that he couldn't use his divine power here, so he could only run. Just as Xiao Pingan was running, a black shadow suddenly jumped out from the forest in the distance. It directly pounced at Xiao Pingan. The black shadow was extremely fast, and Xiao Pingan quickly retreated. Who? Who? 2 voices sounded at the same time, and then they were stunned at the same time. It's you. It's you. The black shadow that pounced out from the forest was a beautiful woman. That woman, if not the female disciple of the Black Dragon sect, who else could it be? Xiao Pingan didn't expect to meet the female disciple of the Black Dragon sect here. For a moment, both sides were surprised. So it's the senior sister of the Black Dragon sect. What a coincidence. I didn't expect senior sister to be here as well. Xiao Pingan. So it's you. The female disciple of the Black Dragon sect wore a black skirt. She had a pair of domineering and exceptionally beautiful phoenix eyes, and her gaze was exceptionally bright. Seeing that it was Xiao Pingan, she sighed in relief. Previously, her master had instructed them not to make an enemy out of Xiao Pingan and to lend him a helping hand when necessary. How did you get in? This, senior sister. I came in the same way you came in. Xiao Pingan spread out his hands. I wonder if senior sister has met anyone else here. No. The female disciple of the Black Dragon sect shook her head. I was in the nearby mountains. I flew all the way here, but I didn't see anyone along the way. As she spoke, the female disciple of the Black Dragon sect pointed to the west behind her. Xiao Pingan looked and saw that it was the direction of the flying peak. It was strange that they didn't see anyone along the way. Xiao Pingan thought to himself, there should be many monasteries and historical sites on the flying peak. The fact that this woman came from there and didn't see anyone meant that the trigger point wasn't on the mountain. If it wasn't on the mountain, then the clue was most likely near the West Lake. This true illusion god palace wouldn't just send the 2 of them here for no reason, right? By the way, did you see anyone else? The female disciple of the Black Dragon sect glanced around and asked directly. Xiao Pingan also shook his head. I just appeared by the lake, and I didn't see anyone else. The female disciple of the Black Dragon sect looked around and frowned slightly. I saw a lake here when I was on the mountain, and there was a long embankment in the middle of the lake. It looked like there should be people here, but why isn't there anyone here? By the way, how should I address you? Senior sister? Xia Pingan asked. The female disciple of the Black Dragon sect looked at Xia Pingan. My surname is Hua, and my name is Hua Xin. Why don't we take a look around here? Maybe we'll find something else. Okay. Hua Xin nodded her head without hesitation. Just as the two were about to move, an ethereal and leisurely singing voice suddenly came from the lake. The snow is clear and the sky is a cold pot. Unexpectedly, I went to the West Lake to explore the old cave, riding a donkey on the snow bridge, laughing at Wang Wei for his painting, picking plum blossoms, and carrying a pot, smiling while drinking wine and looking at flowers, being penniless as a sword, getting drunk at the West Lake. Along with the singing voice, a cloud of fog appeared on the surface of the lake, and the singing voice came from within the fog. Xiaopingan's mind shook as he looked at the lake and saw a small boat floating in the fog. A boatman wearing a straw raincoat emerged from the fog, shaking a small boat as he appeared on the surface of the lake and sailed towards the two. On the huge lake, there was only a small boat gently swaying. Coupled with the singing voice of the boatman, everything was like a poem or a painting. Hua Xian glanced at Xia Pingan and thought to herself, this guy seems to be a bit lucky. As soon as he came out, someone came to the lake. Hua Xian stared at the old man while secretly keeping her guard up. According to her past experience, there were too many strange people in the divine palace. She didn't know whether the scene in front of her was a good or bad thing. The boatman steered the boat towards the shore where the two of them were. When the boat was about 20 meters away from the shore, the boatman stopped and shouted to Xia Pingan and Hua Xian who were on the shore, Young master and young miss, you are in such a good mood. Are you here to visit the West Lake in such heavy snow? Hua Xian didn't speak, but Xia Pingan laughed. Old man, you're in a good mood too. You came out to sail the boat in such heavy snow. As long as the lake doesn't freeze, we won't be able to leave this boat. The boatman laughed and said, my master is watching the snow on the island in the middle of the lake when he saw the two of you. He specially asked me to ask if the two of you would like to come to the island for a drink. Oh, how should I address your master? My master knows everything from astronomy to geography. There is nothing he doesn't know. He has many titles. He calls himself Taoan, but others call him Elder Ancient Sword. The boatman replied proudly. Tao and Elder Ancient Sword, West Lake, Heavy Snow. When these names were combined in Xia Pingan's mind, a name immediately appeared in Xia Pingan's mind. Zhang Dai, the romantic Zhang Dai, who wrote, Watching Snow at the Pavilion in the Middle of the Lake. Chapter 426. Be careful, it may be a trap. Hua Xian stared at the boatman with a vigilant look. She then looked at the seemingly calm lake and reminded Xia Pingan in a low voice, Our divine power is sealed here. We don't know if there are other things in the lake. If there are mermaids or other water monsters in the lake, we will be in danger once we get on the boat and sail into the lake. This may be a trap. Hua Xian's words were reasonable, but her reasoning was only based on her own judgment and understanding of the environment here, which was completely different from Xia Pingan's understanding of this place. I don't think there should be any danger. If we don't go and take a look, we may be trapped here. Xia Pingan said with a smile. Hua Xian warned, You want to go? You may be walking into a trap. There are many incredible rooms in the sacred palace, many of which are hidden dangers. Those who enter these rooms may lose their lives if they are not careful. There may also be special opportunities in these rooms. If Senior Sister Hua is worried, you can wait here. I will go and see what's going on. Xia Pingan said. Without any hesitation, he stretched out his body and jumped up like a big bird. His whole body lightly touched the branch next to him, and he flew more than 10 or 20 meters before landing firmly on the boatman's skiff. Xia Pingan landed on the skiff and gently swayed up and down twice, causing a circle of ripples on the calm lake. Ha ha! Young master, you have great skills. The boatman praised Xia Pingan with a smile. You flatter me. I'm just trying to make a living. Hua Xian did not expect Xia Pingon to be so rash. When she saw Xia Pingon fly onto the skiff, she thought of her master's words. She slightly gritted her teeth and also flew up. She landed on the skiff and stood at the bow with Xia Pingon. "Young master and young miss, please take a seat. This old man is going to row the boat," the boatman said as he started to row the boat. The boat turned around nimbly in the lake and slowly sailed towards the misty island in the lake. The boatman then started to sing at the top of his voice as he rowed the boat. Nibbling the silver cloud, hoeing the jade moon, planting the cold flower to express sorrow. Young and a little bit of heaven wants, Jiangnan is full of spring, who will leak out. Coral as the tree, jade as the skin, deep water as the incense sandalwood shavings. The wild bridge was wide, the cold stream was clean, the slanting branches danced and broke the smoke from the corners of the houses. The old trees crushed the snow from the corners of the walls. Dissolute people refused to accept Wang Xieqiao. Lonely and noble people laugh at the inferior people. Xiao Ran has no affinity with the secular world. Amidst the boatmen's singing, the boat leisurely passed through the tranquil lake and the thin layer of mist. Xia Pingon was experiencing the leisurely mood of watching the snow in the pavilion in the middle of the lake. At this moment, the indifferent mood of the shadow on the lake is only a mark on the dam, a speck of the pavilion in the middle of the lake, a speck of the boat, 2 or 3 people on the boat, was simply wonderful. However, Hua Xian could not experience this. She was completely on guard. Her entire body was like a taut bow, staring at the water and the boatman, ready to attack at any moment. A moment later, the boatman's singing stopped. The boat arrived at the edge of an island in the middle of the lake. There was a pavilion in the middle of the island. There was a person sitting alone in the pavilion. There was tea, a stove, and all kinds of exquisite tea sets. The person was boiling water to make tea. Outside the pavilion, there were plum blossoms spitting out their stems. The person was watching the snow and also making tea. It was very elegant. "Young master and young miss, my master is in the pavilion. The 2 of you can go up by yourselves," the boatman said. "Thank you for your guidance." Xia Pingon thanked him. He tapped his foot on the bow of the boat and flew onto the island. Hua Xian followed suit. The island wasn't big. Xia Pingon walked a few steps and arrived outside the pavilion. Inside the pavilion, a green-clothed elder with snow-white hair was making tea. The green-clothed elder was wearing elegant clothes of the Ming dynasty, but he had a luxurious temperament. His eyes were gentle and spirited. His every move had an indescribable charm. This was Zhang Dai, the romantic elder Gujian. If young Master Qingji was the representative of Chinese nobles during the spring and autumn period, and one could see the bravery and valiance of Chinese nobles from young Master Qingji, then Zhang Dai was the representative of another style of Chinese nobles. From Zhang Dai, one could see the unyielding spirit of Chinese nobles when they were flourishing and the civilization of Chinese nobles when their country was destroyed. The elder in front of Zhang Dai was a hedonistic son of rich parents. He loved prosperity. He had good houses, beautiful maids, fresh clothes, good food, good horses, good lanterns, good fireworks, good pear orchards, good drums, good antiques, good flowers and birds. He also enjoyed drinking tea and drinking oranges. After the 50s, when his country was destroyed and his family was destroyed, the elder hid himself in the mountains. He broke his cauldron and sickened his zither. He lived with incomplete books and lacked an inkstone. His clothes and vegetables were his companions. He wrote history books for the great Ming dynasty. "The water has just been boiled. The 2 of you can come to the pavilion to drink." Zhang Dai gently waved his hand and invited Xia Pingon and Hua Xian into the pavilion. "Sir, you're in such a good mood. It would be impolite of me to refuse." Xia Pingon smiled and calmly walked into the pavilion. He sat opposite Zhang Dai. Hua Xian followed him in and sat beside Xia Pingon. However, from the way she looked at Zhang Dai, it seemed like she was ready to draw her sword and cut him in half at any moment. Zhang Dai was brewing tea. His every movement was calm and pleasing to the eye. In just an instant, the tea was ready. The tea boiled in the white porcelain cup, and the fragrance of the tea seeped into the heart. The color of the tea was like bamboo, and the green powder had just been evenly distributed. It was also like the first blooming of a mountain window, and it was pleasing to the eye. To be able to drink a cup of hot tea in such a snowy lake was truly an elegant thing. Looking at the beautiful tea, Xia Pinggan's heart skipped a beat. He recalled some of Zhang Dai's past. Zhang Dai was not a hedonistic son who only knew how to eat, drink, and play. His epitaph was humble. In fact, Zhang Dai had extremely high attainments in all aspects, especially in the way of tea. When Zhang Dai was young, he liked to compete with others over tea. Later on, he gradually became a great master of the way of tea. He had once made a tea that was famous all over the world. "The two of you, please." Zhang Dai smiled and raised his teacup. "Sir, please." Xia Pinggan also raised his teacup, blew on it, and took a sip. When the tea entered his throat, it turned into a refreshing fragrance that spread throughout his body. Xia Pinggan felt that the divine power in his secret mandala was boiling. The divine power limit in his secret mandala was originally 6,988 points. With just a sip, the divine power limit had increased by 5 points, reaching 6,993 points. Xia Pinggan was stunned for a moment. He thought that he was hallucinating. He carefully sensed that his divine power limit and divine power limit had indeed increased by 5 points. Xia Pinggan could not help but take another sip. The divine power limit and divine power limit in his secret mandala had increased by 5 points, reaching 6,998 points. In the blink of an eye, drinking half a cup of tea was equivalent to fusing with half of the realm pearl. However, Hua Xan did not drink the tea. She looked at Zhang Dai warily and secretly blamed Xia Pinggan for being a little rash. She even signaled Xia Pinggan with her eyes, telling him not to drink it. Xia Pinggan raised his head and drank the entire cup of tea. The remaining half a cup increased his divine power and divine power limit by 10 points. Xia Pinggan's divine power suddenly broke through 7,000 points and reached 7,008 points. A cup of tea for 20 points of divine power. Where in the world could one find such a good thing? Senior Sister Hua, have a cup too. This tea is hard to find in the world and has endless magical uses. It's very beneficial to you and me. Xia Pinggan said directly to Hua Xian. Hua Xian was slightly stunned. She saw that Xia Pinggan did not seem to be joking and kept giving her looks. Furthermore, Xia Pinggan seemed to be fine after drinking the tea. She lowered her head and looked at the alluring tea. She gently picked up the teacup and took a small sip. After a few seconds, Xia Pinggan saw Hua Xian's eyes light up. She seemed to have finally experienced the wonders of the tea. She took another sip. After a few seconds, Hua Xian's face finally changed. She could not help but drink the tea in the cup in one gulp. Senior Sister Hua, how is it? I didn't lie to you, right? Xia Pinggan smiled. This tea is indeed extraordinary. Hua Xian let out a long sigh, and a smile appeared on her face. There were great dangers hidden in the celestial palace, but there were also great opportunities. The situation in front of her was an opportunity. Hua Xian immediately reacted and apologized to Zhang Dai. Hua Xian has just arrived here, so I was too careful. If I have offended you in any way, please forgive me, sir. Haha, it's fine. Zhang Dai laughed. Under the expectant gazes of Xia Pinggan and Hua Xian, he poured another cup of tea for them. He looked at Xia Pinggan and Hua Xian and said, "This young master's aura is majestic like a fierce general. This young lady is wearing a black dress, which looks quite matching. However, if this young master is a scholar, you can wear a white dress today. If the two of you can perform Lei Fengji here today, it will be even more interesting." Hua Xian didn't understand why Zhang Dai would say that. She was completely confused, but Xia Pinggan knew that Zhang Dai was comparing him and Hua Xian to Su Xian and White Snake. He was joking with the two of them. Zhang Dai liked opera, and in the Ming Dynasty, after Chen Lulong wrote Lei Fengji, White Snake also appeared on the stage of the overture. Ahem! Xiao Pingon coughed twice and quickly said to Zhang Dai with a smile, "If Sir likes it, please boil a few pots of tea for us to moisten our throats. Whatever Sir likes, this young lady and I will perform for Sir." Zhang Dai smiled and shook his head. When watching a play, the most important thing is the first appearance. This lady is elegant and dignified, a peerless beauty. If she were to change into a white dress, she would be able to play the role of a white lady. You're a bald man. No matter how you act, you will never be able to play the role of a weak scholar. Your bald head reminds me of that old monk who spoils the mood. You don't fit the role at all. Xiao Pingon was speechless. If he had known earlier, he would have turned into a pretty boy. At that time, he didn't know which nerve in his head had a different preference. He actually turned into such a bald man. He might have missed an opportunity. Although he felt that it was a pity, Xiao Pingon's hands were not idle. He picked up the cup and drank another cup of tea in one go. The upper limit of his divine power suddenly reached 7,028 points. In the blink of an eye, he had drunk 4 cups of tea. The pot of water was also empty. Xiao Pingon's divine power finally reached 7,068 points. "Sir, may I ask what the name of this tea is?" Hua Xian asked, still unsatisfied. "I haven't thought of a name for this tea yet. Why don't you give me a name? If I am satisfied with the name, I will brew another pot of tea for you." Zhang Dai said with a smile and threw out a question. Chapter 427. Hua Xian's eyes lit up when she heard Zhang Dai's question. She knew that this question was one of the rewards for this trial. Brewing another pot of tea was the equivalent of 80 points of divine force. This was equivalent to 2 or 3 divine force realm beads. Hua Xian would never let go of such an opportunity. She glanced at Xiao Pingon. From Xiao Pingon's rough appearance, he might have the ability to refine soul armaments, but naming tea was something that required literary talent. Hua Xian pondered for a moment before speaking to Zhang Dai. "Sir, this tea has an excellent color and smell. It's green like a pine tree, but there's also a rich aroma. Why don't we name it Auspicious Pine?" "Auspicious Pine?" Zhang Dai repeated the name and then shook his head. "Miss, this name is not bad, but it doesn't quite match the charm of my tea." Xiao Pingon glanced at Hua Xian and thought that this woman had some skills. Her name was not bad. It was already very appropriate. However, she did not know the origin of the tea in front of her. This tea should have been made by using the sun-cast snow bud, referring to the ancient pine radish tea production process, and a special recipe to improve the tea with some jasmine. After it was made, the value of the originally ordinary sun-cast snow bud rose sharply, and it became famous all of a sudden. It was Zhang Daiping's proud work, but unfortunately, this tea was later lost. The name of this tea was only 2 words, Snow Orchid. Seeing Hua Xian frowning as she thought of a new name, Zhang Dai turned to Xiao Pingon and smiled. "Sir, what do you think this tea should be called?" The color and luster of this tea is like freshly peeled bamboo shoots. It's light green and like the window paper of a mountain window. When poured into a cup, this tea is like a simple and elegant orchid standing in the water. The whiter the snow, the more it smells, the better it is. It has the character of a gentleman, elegant but not flattering. Its color is amiable and its fragrance is pleasant. At this moment, the lake and mountain are snow white. Why don't we call it Snow Orchid? Let's call it Snow Orchid Tea, Xiao Pingon said calmly. Snow Orchid was a gentleman among flowers, noble and pure. The gentleman in front of him loved snow. The name Snow Orchid Tea was given by this gentleman. On the surface, it was a tea, but in fact, it was also referring to himself. Haha, Snow Orchid. Snow Orchid. Not bad. A good name, a good name. My little friend's words are very much to my liking. Zhang Dai laughed. To repay my little friend, I'll brew another pot of Snow Orchid Tea for you. Thank you, sir. Hua Xian looked at Xiao Pingon in surprise. She didn't expect the burly Xiao Pingon to come up with such a name. For a moment, she was amazed by Xiao Pingon's talent. The pot of Snow Orchid Tea was quickly brewed. After drinking 4 cups of tea, Xiao Pingan's divine power limit in the secret mandala increased by another 80 points, reaching 7,148 points. Hua Xian also benefited from the sudden increase in divine power. The divine power limit of the secret mandala increased from 6,930 points to 8,820 points when advancing from the 6th Sun realm to the 7th Sun realm. They needed to increase their divine power by 1,890 points. In the time it took to brew 2 cups of tea, the two of them had increased their divine power by 160 points. This was a huge gain. It was almost equivalent to completing 1/12 of the goal of advancing to the next realm. After finishing the pot of tea, Zhang Dai suddenly sighed softly and pointed at an exquisite potted plant beside the tea table behind him. "What do the two of you think of this potted plant?" Zhang Dai casually pointed at it, and Xiao Pingan turned his attention to the potted plant. Although he had seen the potted plant when he entered the pavilion, he had only glanced at it and didn't pay it much attention. In all fairness, the potted plant was too exquisite. The pine trees and grass on the potted artificial mountain were all miniature pine trees and some light green moss. Although Xiao Pingan didn't know much about potted plants, he felt that there really was a mountain in the potted plant. "Sir, this potted plant has fused heaven, earth, and mountains into one. The rocks, flowing water, flowers, and trees in the potted plant are vivid and lifelike. However, sir, please don't blame me for being blunt. The moss and vegetation in the potted plant seem to have been improperly maintained and have turned yellow. It has made the potted plant lose much of its luster." Hua Xian replied. Zhang Dai sighed. "The two of you should have come from afar and should be knowledgeable. This is an exquisite potted plant I borrowed from a friend a few days ago. I like it very much, but after a few days at home, the potted plant has turned yellow due to my improper maintenance. It no longer has the spiritual qi and vitality it had before. I am currently troubled by this matter and have already visited many people and tried many methods. Unfortunately, none of them work. No one knows how to restore this potted plant to its original state." "How do you know how to restore the potted plant?" Hua Xian was very tempted when she heard Zhang Dai's question. This old man must have a special gift to repay her. However, restoring the potted plant's vitality was beyond her ability. "I think the plants in this potted plant don't lack water and nutrients, right?" Hua Xian asked tentatively. "Of course not. I have asked the best gardeners to take a look. However, the plants in this potted plant are different from those in the soil. They cannot be removed or placed in the soil. The water used is also very particular. If you want to restore the spiritual qi and vitality of this potted plant, you will need a special secret method. I heard that this secret method is priceless and ordinary people would not know of it. If the two of you know of a secret method that can restore the spiritual qi and vitality of my potted plant, I will give the two of you another gift." Hua Xian doesn't speak anymore. The secret method to restore the vitality of this exquisite potted plant in front of her is no less difficult than fusing and unlocking a black box realm pearl. Not to mention her, even if her master was here, he would probably be at a loss. At this moment, Hua Xian glanced at Xiao Pingan and realized that Xiao Pingan was not nervous at all. He even had a smile on his face that said he was in control of everything. Yes, Xiao Pingan was not a potted plant expert, but he was very familiar with Zhang Dai's life. The question Zhang Dai was asking them was the most difficult problem Zhang Dai had ever encountered. Zhang Dai had thought of countless methods and visited experts. In the end, he had finally found the secret method to restore the spiritual qi and vitality of the potted plant. Then, he had written the secret method in his book. This old man was very particular about his knowledge in life. It was unimaginable for ordinary people. He could play to a high level in anything. In history, this old man was probably the first person in history who was worried about domestic dairy products. This old man liked to eat cheese, but he was worried about the safety of foreign dairy products. Therefore, he bought a cow and had someone raise it at home to make cheese for him. Seeing Zhang Dai's gaze turn to him, Xiao Pingan smiled. "That's simple. Sir, you only need to soak the ginseng in water and sprinkle the water on this potted plant. In a few days, this potted plant will definitely regain its spiritual chi and vitality. Ginseng and water, sprinkle it with water. Zhang Dai thought for a moment and suddenly understood. He revealed an excited expression and patted his head. This ginseng absorbs the spiritual chi of the mountains and rivers of the world. Soaking ginseng in water is like dispersing the spiritual chi of the world into the water. Ginseng can be very nourishing for humans. If you sprinkle the ginseng water on the potted plant, won't the spiritual chi of the ginseng be returned to the world of the potted plant? Wonderful, wonderful. Zhang Dai laughed heartily and looked at Xia Pinggan with great satisfaction. My young friend really knows me well. It's really interesting to meet you here today. Sir, you're too polite. I only read a little more and saw this method in the book. The person who left the book is really amazing, Xia Pinggan said sincerely. In any case, I still have to thank you for telling me. As Zhang Dai spoke, he gently waved his hand, causing another door to appear outside the pavilion. Behind this door is where I discovered the mystery of Zhuge Liang's 8-front formation when I traveled all over the world. There are different formation discs in the 8-front formation. There are 64 formation discs in Kuei province, which are part of the square formation. There are 128 formation discs in Maomi, which are part of the head formation. There are 256 formation discs in Chessboard City, which are part of the base formation. There are also formation discs at the foot of Dingjun Mountain in Minshui. How much of the essence of the formation you can obtain will depend on your luck and ability. Formations. Xia Pinggan was a little excited. He did not expect this old gentleman to give them such a generous gift in the end. Xia Pinggan and Hua Xian looked at each other and hurriedly stood up and bowed to Zhang Dai. Thank you, sir. Take care, my young friends. I won't see you off. I hope we'll have a chance to meet again in the future. Xia Pinggan and Hua Xian walked out of the pavilion and came to the door. Xia Pinggan took one last look at the old man in the pavilion and the snowy scenery of Westlake. He kept the scene in his heart before pushing open the door in front of him and taking a step into it. Zhang Dai's Night Sailing Boat, Volume 2, Geography Department. Chapter 428. When he passed through the door, Xia Pinggan's body reacted strongly. This feeling was exactly the same as when he successfully fused with the Realm Pearl. This feeling was completely absent when he was drinking tea. The sudden increase in divine power was invigorating his body and increasing his abilities in all aspects. At the same time, there were changes in the secret mandala. Xia Pinggan saw that there was an additional sculpture in his secret mandala. That sculpture was the appearance of Zhang Dai when he was brewing the snow orchid tea. He could actually summon Zhang Dai. Xia Pinggan was a little dumbfounded. Everything had happened in a matter of moments. Light and shadow spun in front of him. When Xia Pinggan's foot landed, he was already standing by a river. In front of the river, a few thousand meters away, was a thatched cottage. Next to the thatched cottage was a scattered pile of rocks by the river. The rocks were shrouded in a faint layer of fog. They looked calm, but they made one shudder with fear. They seemed to be one with the heavens and earth, and were filled with murderous intent. Vaguely, Xia Pinggan saw an old man fishing near the thatched cottage by the river. Hua Xian naturally followed Xia Pinggan out of the door. After stepping out of the door, Hua Xian's expression was a little strange. She seemed a little confused. She looked around and then looked at Xia Pinggan. She frowned and could not help but ask, Just now, what happened in that room? Why did my divine power suddenly increase by 160 points? Xia Pinggan looked at her and also felt a little strange. Senior Sister Hua, you don't remember what happened just now? Yes, when I stepped through the door, I only remember that I seemed to have met an old man in that room. He invited us to drink tea. We seemed to have talked to him about something and chatted happily. I don't remember anything else. It's a blur, like a dream. Hua Xian tried hard to recall. That's right. I also heard that old man say that we can learn about arrays here. I don't remember anything else. Could it be that the room had an ability similar to the riddle of boundaries in the Realm Pearl? Looking at Hua Xian, it didn't seem like she was faking at all. Xiao Pingan couldn't help but think of some things that Supreme Styx River had told him about in the Divine Palace before he came in. He always felt that many things that Supreme Styx River had introduced were vague and unclear. It seemed that those who had experienced it only had a rough impression and were not very clear about the layout of the rooms in the Divine Palace. If some rooms, to a certain extent, had the ability to separate worlds, then it made sense. Senior Apprentice Sister Hua, I'm the same as you. I can't remember what happened inside. My divine power has also increased by 160 points, and I also remember that old man saying that I can learn about formations here. Xiao Pingan pretended to be stupid and said. Hua Xian thought for a while and shook her head. She exhaled and looked a little relieved. Forget it. The room that we entered just now might be a little strange, but the two of us still gained some benefits and should be considered to have passed. Before I came in, I heard from my master that some rooms here might be like the world in the Realm Pearl. They are mysterious and unpredictable and can even affect memory. It seems to be true. Yes, it should be like this. Xiao Pingan quickly changed the topic and pointed to the stone piles in front of them. I think there is something strange over there. There's also a person fishing. Why don't we go over and ask? Okay. The two of them ran towards the stone piles in the distance. After a while, the two of them arrived behind the fishermen. Beside the fishermen were the stone piles. The river in front of them was as green as jade and flowed quietly. From time to time, chopstick-sized fish would jump out of the water and appear to be full of vitality. The person fishing here was an old man wearing a straw raincoat. His eyebrows and beard were snow white, and he looked scholarly. He fished casually, as though he was a hermit expert. Seeing Xiao Pingan and Hua Xian land, the old man turned around and looked at them. He even smiled and took the initiative to speak. It's been so many years, and it's rare for someone to be able to come here. Do you want to learn formations? Those stone piles in front are the 8 front formation diagrams, and the profoundness of formations is contained within. Go ahead yourselves, and the straw stove at the side is my humble abode. There's nothing else, so don't ask me. How much you can get will depend on your own abilities. Entering the 8 front formation diagrams, each person has their own world. Even if the two of you enter together, you will have to separate, and it will depend on your own luck. Seems like you two are fated. The killing technique of the 8 front formation diagrams has yet to be activated, and if your abilities are insufficient, you won't lose your life. Hua Xian was extremely arrogant. When she heard the old man's words, she did not say a word. She only glanced at Xiao Pingan and said, I'll go take a look. After saying this, Hua Xian's figure flashed, and she rushed into the stone piles. Her figure was concealed in the fog, and she disappeared. That feeling was very strange. Hua Xian was still in front of Xiao Pingan just a moment ago. However, when she flew into the range of the stone piles, the fog rolled, and she disappeared without a trace in the blink of an eye. Ha! This girl is quite ambitious. The old fisherman shook his head with a smile and turned back to look at his fishing rod. Xiao Pingan was not in a hurry to go in. He squinted his eyes and looked at the old man carefully. Many thoughts were running through his mind. After Hua Xian left, Xiao Pingan tidied his clothes and bowed respectfully to the old man. After the copper was smelted, he poured the copper liquid into the sand mold that he had prepared beforehand. A few rough copper parts were ready. The next step was to polish the copper parts and install them onto the crossbow. With Xiao Pingan's physical strength, he didn't eat or drink. He worked like a machine for more than 20 hours before he finally made what he wanted. It was a Zhuge repeating crossbow. Before the invention of continuous firearms, this Zhuge repeating crossbow was an invincible weapon on the battlefield. This Zhuge repeating crossbow was a weapon invented by Zhuge Liang. After making the Zhuge repeating crossbow, Xiao Pingan shot an arrow. The crossbow was loaded and fired smoothly. Within 20 steps, the arrow could easily pierce through the bamboo forest beside the thatched hut. After confirming that there were no problems with the Zhuge repeating crossbow, Xiao Pingan took it and returned to the old fisherman's side. He presented the crossbow with both hands. Senior, Do you think this self-defense weapon is still usable? The old fisherman took the Zhuge repeating crossbow that Xia Pingan handed over. His eyes were slightly complicated. He gently stroked the crossbow and sighed. Then, do the descendants of Yin Huang still remember how to make this crossbow? Xia Pingan said respectfully, "This crossbow is the same as the 8-front formation. It's a symbol of our Chinese ancestors' civilization. It's a testament to our Chinese ancestors' ability to change the world. Ordinary people might not remember it, but as a scholar, how could I forget it? I've made one myself when I was studying, and it's not the first time I've made one." "Oh, then how do you evaluate the person who made this crossbow?" The old fisherman asked. "The person who created this crossbow is a man of great skill and knowledge. He left behind a lesson before the horse that has been passed down for thousands of years. I believe he also knows about the matter of the evaluation. However, since Senior is asked, then Junior will use the couplet outside the Wuhou shrine to answer." At this point, Xia Pingan cleared his throat and said a couplet. "When it comes to protecting the emperor, good children and grandchildren, 3 generations of loyalty, the historical pen praises Chen Shu's son. Amazing writing, thousands of years of snot and tears, splashing General Yu with ink." After Xia Pingan finished speaking, the old fisherman's tears rolled down. Today's update. Chapter 429. Seeing the old man's tears, Xia Pingan knew that he had found the right person. He tidied his clothes and solemnly bowed to the old man. Xia Pingan greets Mr. Wulong. The old man in front of him was Zhuge Kongming, Mr. Wulong. Everyone felt that the records of the 3 kingdoms made Zhuge Kongming into a legend. But in reality, Xia Pingan felt that the records of the 3 kingdoms didn't fully display the true greatness of the old man in front of him. The old man's abilities were truly earth-shattering. It was a pity that they were all buried in history, leaving only bits and pieces for future generations. Back then, Liu Bei visited Mr. Wulong 3 times to ask him to leave the mountain. Was Mr. Wulong truly helping Liu Bei? It could be said that he was willing to leave the mountain because he wanted to use his own strength to continue the Great Han's fate. His opponent was not anyone else but the heavens and the heavenly Tao. The old man had never lost to anyone in his life. He had only lost to the heavens and the heavenly Tao. This could be seen from the 16 words in the first lesson of the old man's lesson before the horse. The first lesson of the lesson was, powerless to reverse the heavens, one has to do one's best. Yin holds the yang, 8,000 female ghosts. Being powerless to reverse the situation was referring to the fate of the Great Han dynasty. It was his own fate. The 8,000 female ghosts represented Wei, and the one that ended the last bit of fate of the Great Han dynasty was the Wei kingdom. This was also the final result of the struggle between the 3 kingdoms of Wu, Shu, and Wei. Once this old man passed away, the last bit of fate of the Great Han dynasty and the Shu kingdom was also gone. When the old man left the mountain, he already understood everything, but he still chose to walk on this path. He knew it was impossible, but he still chose to do it. He wanted to fight against the heavens with his own strength and turn the situation around. What kind of courage and ability was that? The most difficult thing in the world was not to bravely move forward in the face of the unknown, but to face the known without hesitation. This was the so-called wisdom and courage. In the past, Xia Pingan had often thought, if he could meet this old man, what would he say to him? This was because he had too many questions in his mind. This old man had also left behind too many mysteries for the world. Summoning the wind and summoning the rain, the 8-front formation, the wooden ox. Now that they had met, Xia Pingan realized that he had a lot of things to say to Mr. Wulong, but he couldn't say them out loud. All he felt was respect. Mr. Wulong quickly calmed himself down. He glanced at Xia Pingan and said, "Since we're fated to meet, why don't you come to my cottage and have some tea?" After that, Mr. Wulong put away his fishing tools and placed them by the river. He then walked towards the thatched cottage not far away. Drinking tea again? How could Xia Pingan refuse? Naturally, he hurriedly followed. When they reached the thatched cottage, Mr. Wulong waved his hand. A few humanoid puppets wearing clothes appeared in the thatched cottage. These puppets were very lifelike. The moment they appeared, they started to chop wood, boil water, and brew tea like servants. Although the tea wasn't as nourishing as the snow orchid tea, it still left a lingering fragrance in the mouth and cheeks. Mr. Wulong put down his teacup and asked softly, "Young friend, are you here to learn about the Tao of formations?" "I was just about to ask for your guidance," Xiao Pingan said. Mr. Wulong only extended his hand and lightly tapped Xiao Pingan's forehead. A golden light flew out from his fingertip and entered Xiao Pingan's forehead. In Xiao Pingan's consciousness, a golden book appeared, Kunlun Formation and Mechanism Collection. As soon as Xiao Pingan's consciousness touched the book collection of Kunlun formations and mechanisms, in a split second, the contents of the book and numerous information about formations and mechanisms poured into his mind. 8 front formation patterns was only a part of collection of Kunlun formations and mechanisms, which included mechanical puppetry skills such as wooden oxen and horse. There were also various formations and immortal mechanical puppetry skills, which were dazzling to the eyes. There were a total of 1,080 kinds of formations and mechanical secret skills, which were too much for the eyes to take in. Looking at the contents of the formations and mechanisms in his mind, Xiao Pingan was so excited that his body trembled. If this secret book was placed outside, it would be a priceless treasure. He didn't think that he would be able to obtain it. Of course, this array mechanism technique was not a summoner's summoning technique that could be mastered overnight. The contents of this secret manual were abnormally profound. It involved the transformation of the 5 elements and the various uses of soul power runes. Even if one had the secret manual in hand, they would still need to comprehend it bit by bit before they could gradually grasp it. "Mister, may I ask where this secret book comes from?" Xiao Pingan asked. Mr. Wulong smiled. "Naturally, it comes from Kunlun. In fact, it's not just this secret book. The entire Chinese civilization originated from Kunlun. Kunlun is the ancestral court of China." At this point, Mr. Wulong glanced at Xiao Pingan. "You can only stay here for 3 days at most. This secret book is abnormally profound and mysterious. It's difficult for ordinary people to comprehend it. If you have any questions in these 3 days, feel free to ask me. As for how much you can comprehend, it will depend on your own perception." Xiao Pingan knew that the opportunity in front of him was hard to come by. This was equivalent to having the world's most powerful formation and mechanism master sitting in front of him. Every second was abnormally precious. Xiao Pingan didn't dare to waste any more time. He quickly recalled the contents of the Kunlun formation and mechanism collection in his mind. He began to ask questions. "Mister, may I ask what is Wuji? What is Taiji? What is Yin and Yang? How do they change?" Taiji is born from Wuji. Knowing what is white and guarding what is black, it is the world style. It is called the world style. Eternally virtuous, it returns to the Wuji. The Wuji is the true Tao of nature, the origin of the universe. Its nature is emptiness. Its quality is Tao. It gives birth to all things. Its movement is from nothingness to existence. Chaos is yet to be divided. Once it is divided, there will be the image of yin and yang. This simple sentence was difficult for Xiao Pingan to digest in such a short time. He could only remember it, and then quickly asked a second question. "Mister, may I ask what is the essence of the 3 talents formation?" The 3 talents are heaven, earth, and man. The 3 talents are the foundation of the formation. Although it is the foundation, it can change according to the person. There are many differences and changes. As Mr. Wulong spoke, he took 3 teacups from the table and placed them in a triangle. He began to explain to Xiao Pingan. As Mr. Wulong explained, the 3 teacups gradually changed. They turned into 3 porcelain figures and began to attack on the table. Then, they turned into 3 white knives and hid in the void. Just like that, Xiao Pingan tirelessly asked for guidance on the questions in Kunlun formation and mechanism collection. On the other hand, Mr. Wulong patiently answered all of Xiaoping's questions. Between the questions and answers, time flowed like water. Unknowingly, 3 days had passed. Mister, what is the eight-front formation? The eight-front formation uses the four lands of Qian, Kun, Sun, and Jin as the heaven, earth, wind, and cloud as the main troops. The northwest is Qian ground, Qian formation as the heaven formation. The southwest is Kun ground, Kun formation as the earth formation. The southeast is Sun residence, Sun formation as the wind formation. The northeast is Jin residence, Jin formation as the mountains. The mountains and rivers that rise out of the clouds are the cloud formation. Water, fire, metal, and wood as the four strange formations of dragon, tiger, bird, and snake as the surprise troops. The formations are the azure dragon formation on the left, the white tiger formation on the right, the vermilion bird formation on the front, and the Xuanwu snake formation on the back. The eight formations are then placed in the main formation. The eight formations are heaven overturning, earth carrying, wind rising, cloud hanging, dragon flying, tiger wings, bird soaring, and snake coiling. The eight formations correspond to the changes of the eight trigrams. The main formation is divided into 64 formations and 32 formations of yin and yang. Strange and righteous engender each other, and there is no end to the cycle. The head and tail correspond to each other, hidden and unpredictable. In one formation, the two formations follow each other, one for battle and one for defense. After Mr. Wulong finished explaining the eight-front formation to Xiaopinggan, he stopped. Xiaopinggan was still thinking. He looked outside and said to Xiaopinggan, 3 days have passed. In these 3 days, you have grasped the essence of many formations and mechanisms. You have far surpassed the average formation master and mechanism master. As for the other essences in the secret manual, you can slowly comprehend them yourself. As Mr. Wulong spoke, he waved his hand lightly, and a door appeared in the thatched cottage. Your companion has already left the eight-front formation. You can leave now. Xiaopinggan stood up, tidied his clothes, and bowed solemnly to Mr. Wulong again. Xiaopinggan, thanks, mister, for your teachings. Looking at your complexion, I'm afraid there will be a massacre soon. Unforeseen calamities are just around the corner. Be careful. Mr. Wulong nodded. It was unfathomable, as if he had already seen something. Yes. Xiaopinggan walked to the door, turned around, and bowed again. He then pushed the door open and stepped out. Chapter 430. With a flash of light, Xiaopinggan landed on the ground and saw Hua Exan walking out of a door beside him at almost the same time. The place in front of them was finally within a magnificent palace. It was no longer as confusing as the previous places. The place where the two of them settled down was a magnificent corridor within the palace. The corridor was richly decorated and painted, and it was a splendid sight. Outside the corridor was a garden. All kinds of flowers and plants, both well-known and unknown, were competing with each other in the garden. It was a lively scene. If Xiaopinggan had looked at the garden before, he would have thought that it was just a garden. But now, when he looked at the garden again, he could see that there was something different about it. The arrangement of the flowers and trees in the garden had the smell of a formation. There was a faint killing intent. Xiaopinggan could see the traces of an illusory formation among the flowers and plants. This was a killing formation with an illusory formation. The divine palace was really full of danger. Senior Sister Hua, are you all right? Xiaopinggan took the initiative to greet her. After not seeing her for 3 days, Hua Exan seemed to have not changed at all. I'm fine. I was just trapped in that formation for 3 days and didn't completely break out. How about you, Junior Brother Long? Looking at Hua Exan's expression, she didn't look upset at all. Instead, she was full of energy and had a smile on her face. It seemed that she must have gained something in the eight-front formation in these 3 days. I'm about the same, just like Senior Sister Hua. Xiaopinggan smiled. The two of them didn't ask each other what they gained or what formation they learned. This was a very private question. The two of them weren't that close yet, so they avoided it. This place seems to be inside the Divine Palace. Xiao Pingon glanced around. Senior Sister Hua, do you know how to get there? The corridor led to two different directions. Now, the question of where to go became a problem for the two of them. True Monarch Ming, he didn't mention this place to him. However, the only good thing was that after coming here, Xia Pingon found that he could use his divine power. The ability of a summoner had returned. Hua Xian turned around and looked at the place. She seemed to be deep in thought. Junior Brother Long, wait a moment. I think his senior sister from the Black Dragon Gate came here before. The environment here is similar to a place I know of. Let me try, Senior Sister Hua, please. Hua Xian didn't say anything. She just took out a bottle of 7-colored fine sand from her spatial equipment. She opened the bottle and gently sprinkled the fine sand into the air. The 7-colored fine sand fell like a rainbow. After it landed on the ground, the fine sand appeared like a stream of water on the ground. It flowed continuously and flowed towards a corridor. Hua Xian looked as if she was relieved. Of course, it's here. After saying that, Hua Xian followed the sand and walked towards one of the corridors. Xia Pingon followed. Senior Sister Hua, where are we going? This should lead us to the palace where the key is. Let's just follow the rainbow sand. This rainbow sand was refined by a senior sister of mine. The last time she came here, she entered the palace where the key is obtained through this corridor. This rainbow sand can follow the aura of my world. There shouldn't be any danger along the way. That's right. Senior Sister Hua, you're really well prepared. Only 2 people from the Black Dragon sect enter this place every time. How can we not be well prepared? The two of them followed the rainbow-colored sand in the corridor. The scenery on both sides of the corridor constantly changed. Indeed, they didn't encounter any danger along the way. However, after walking for 5 or 6 minutes, a corpse suddenly appeared in the corridor in front of them. The corridor was covered in blood, and the stench was overwhelming. The corpse had been cut into 3 pieces from the head to the waist. It was a miserable death. It should have been cut in half by a sharp blade. Judging from the corpse's attire, it should belong to one of the people who came here from True Monarch Wu Chen's side. Xia Pingon and Hua Xian looked at each other. Their faces suddenly became serious. The corridor here was safe, but it didn't mean that the people who came here were safe. Xia Pingon's heart moved. He directly summoned Boy Fortune God and let him scout ahead. The two continued to walk in the corridor. After passing through a garden, they saw another person lying on the ground in front of the corridor. From afar, it was a beautiful woman in a green dress. The woman seemed to be able to move. Hearing the footsteps, the woman in the green dress raised her head, revealing her blood-stained face. She raised her hand as if to ask for help. Then, she fainted again. Junior Sister Qin. Hua Xian looked at the woman in the green dress on the ground. Her face changed greatly, and she wanted to rush over. However, the one who was faster than her was the Boy of Fortune. The Boy of Fortune had already discovered the target and made a special gesture to Xia Pingon. Wait a minute. Xia Pingon grabbed Hua Xian. Hua Xian suddenly turned her head and glared at Xia Pingon. What are you doing? Xia Pingon squinted his eyes and looked at the green-robed woman who had fallen to the ground in the distance. Senior Sister Hua, the corpse we saw just now was beheaded when she was caught off guard. I saw that the wound on the corpse was very smooth, as if it was done by a summoned assassin. There are no traces of fighting in this corridor, so Senior Sister Hua's junior sister should not be weak. How could she lie here for no reason? What's more, it's such a coincidence that she saw you the moment you arrived, made a gesture for help, and then fainted without saying a word. Senior Sister Hua, don't you think it's strange? Hua Xian was not stupid. As soon as Xia Pingon spoke, she reacted. You mean, try it and you'll know. Xia Pingon said. Without saying anything, he threw a fireball technique at the woman in the green dress who had fallen to the ground. Just as Xia Pingon's fireball was about to reach her, the green-skirted woman fiercely jumped up. With a slash of the dagger in her hand, she directly cut the fireball into 2 halves and dissipated. Then, The black fog on the green-skirted woman's body exploded with a bang, revealing the figure of a dragon slayer assassin. The figure flashed and rushed directly towards the two people. The cold dagger in his hand flashed with a bloodthirsty light. What a thief! Hua Xian was infuriated at once. She was both shocked and furious. She waved her hand, and hundreds of ice cones flew towards the assassin like a huge net, leaving no space for him to escape. The assassin's figure was like smoke, and the dagger in his hand lit up with a bright flame. He directly shattered 7 or 8 ice cones and rushed over again. Xia Pingyan's small net technique covered the assassin's head. Although the net technique was a small summoning technique, it could also play a miraculous role when used at the right time and in the right place, such as now. A small net technique just happened to interrupt the assassin's attack rhythm. The assassin's figure stagnated, and he had no choice but to jump up and dodge. Xia Pingyan's 7-star sword whip had been waiting for a long time. It had already calculated all the assassin's movements. The assassin jumped up, and the 7-star sword whip flashed. One of the dragon-slaying assassin's arms was directly cut off by Xia Pingyan. It turned into light and dissipated. Before the assassin could land on the ground, Hua Xian's attack had arrived. This woman's second wave of attack was like an angry dragon. Under the scorching fire dragon's entanglement, the summoned and injured dragon-slaying assassin turned into ashes in the blink of an eye and dissipated into light. A dragon-slaying assassin facing a 6th Sun Realm summoner was already somewhat difficult. Moreover, after losing his concealment, the dragon-slaying assassin changed from an assassination to a strong offense. Many of his specialties and abilities could not be used. Furthermore, he encountered 2 powerful figures in the 6th Sun Realm, Xia Pingyan and Hua Xian. In just a few breaths' time, he was easily defeated by the 2 of them working together. Junior Brother Long, thank you for reminding me. If not for your reminder, I might have been taken advantage of by that assassin. Hua Xian thanked Xia Pingyan. You're welcome. Senior Sister Hua was careless because she was too concerned. Actually, that assassin had many flaws. I encountered a similar assassination before, so I became more vigilant. Hua Xian's face was frosty as she gritted her teeth and said, "He actually dared to use my junior sister Qin to bait me. If I find out who did it, I will definitely tear him to pieces." The person who summoned the assassin should be in front. That's right. That person must be in front. The main hall is in front. Let's go take a look. The 2 of them continued forward. After walking for a few more minutes, a magnificent main hall appeared in front of them. There are already more than 10 people inside the main hall. Chapter 431. Among those people, Hua Xian immediately spotted her junior sister Qin in a green skirt. She immediately leaped towards her. "Junior Sister Qin, are you all right?" "Senior Sister, I'm fine." Junior Sister Qin from Black Dragon Sect let out a sigh of relief at the sight of Hua Xian and Xia Pingyan, who appeared together with Hua Xian. "Senior Sister, are you all right?" "I'm fine." Hua Xian scanned the people in the main hall with her sharp eyes, as if she was trying to identify who had set up the ambush in the corridor. However, as there were more than 10 people in the main hall, and almost all of them could summon a dragon-slaying assassin, it was hard to identify them. "Senior Sister, why are you with Long Huan from Wan Shin Sect?" Seeing Hua Xian coming over, Junior Sister Qin covered their voices as she asked in a low voice. "It's a long story. Long Huan and I'm in a room. By the way, did you come from the corridor outside? Did you find anything unusual?" "No. I left a room a few hours ago. As soon as I pushed open the door, I appeared here. The corridor outside is full of killing formations of the Heavenly Palace. From the main hall to the corridor is like a maze with numerous paths. No one knows where they lead to, so we didn't take the risk to explore it. We just waited here and prepared to get the key." Junior Sister Qin answered. "All right, I got it. Long Huan and I just came from the corridor. Someone summoned a dragon-slaying assassin to disguise as you to ambush me. I was almost fooled. The person who summoned the dragon-slaying assassin to disguise as you to ambush, me must be someone in this palace. Long Huan nodded. Long Huan and I had just come from the corridor. Junior Sister Chin was startled. These people are scheming against each other. From now on, the two of us will stay together. We'll talk about it when we get out of here. If we split up and meet again, we'll use the secret signal in the sect to confirm our identities, so that we won't be taken advantage of. Hua Xin and her junior martial sister Chin quickly came up with a plan. Xiaoping, who had entered the main hall, was also sizing up the people who had entered the hall at this moment. In addition to the 2 people from the Black Dragon sect, there were 7 people from Supreme Wu Chen's side. 3 of them were injured and were sitting cross-legged on the ground to recuperate. Meng Ziki was also here. When Meng Ziki saw Xia Pingon, he smiled and nodded at Xia Pingon to greet him. Gu Yulong, Qi Yu, and Hong Indeo of the 10,000 Deities sect were all here. When they saw Xia Pingon, they also ran over. Senior Brother Gu, Senior Brother Hong, Senior Sister Qi, you're all here. Yes, we just arrived not long ago. Have you seen Senior Brother Chu and the others? Hong Indeo asked in a rough voice. There was a hint of worry in his voice. No, after I entered here, I met Senior Sister Hua of the Black Dragon sect. After passing through 2 rooms, we came here, Xia Pingon said with a naive face. Gu Yulong glanced at Hua Xin and smiled ambiguously. He gently bumped Xia Pingon and raised his eyebrows at Xia Pingon, whispering, Junior Brother Long, you're really lucky with women. This guy, Senior Brother Chu, and the others will be fine, right? Chi Yu asked worriedly. No one could guarantee this, because the rooms in the Divine Palace were strange and unpredictable. No one knew what kind of tests they had to go through. No one dared to say that those who entered here would definitely be able to come here. Senior Brother Chu is calm and experienced. Heaven helps the good, so he should be fine. Xia Pingon could only say so. I hope so. Xia Pingon didn't say anything. He waited here, quietly with Gu Yulong and the others. No one talked about their encounters and gains in the other rooms. For summoners, this was the same as the secret mandala. Everyone's special abilities and gains were extremely private. They were also important information in the Divine Palace and couldn't be casually discussed. Everyone was waiting here. According to the information that Xia Pingon had obtained from Supreme Mingi, after arriving here, one of the walls in the hall would open and reveal the other half of the hall. At that time, it would be time for them to summon assassins to enter the other half of the hall and retrieve the key. After retrieving the key, other doors would appear in the hall. Those who had the key could enter the place where the giant snake was and retrieve the divine weapon from the belly of the giant snake. For Xia Pingon, everything in the Palace of Fantasy Deities was like a special game maze. It seemed to be waiting for someone to enter and open the treasure chest in the maze. Everything here was beyond people's expectations and was strange and dangerous. Since he had nothing to do now, Xia Pingon swallowed some elixirs and rested while looking at the layout of the hall. There was only one door in the hall. Outside the door was the corridor. When they entered the hall, there was only one corridor. But now, looking at the corridor from inside the hall, the corridor was like a kaleidoscope, constantly changing. As soon as they walked out of the door, there were more than 10 corridors connected to each other. Behind those corridors, there were still corridors constantly changing. If it was before, Xia Pingon would definitely not know what was going on. But now, after appreciating and judging with the eyes of a formation master, Xia Pingon could see traces of the 1,000 illusionary tracks formation and the 5 elements reversal formation in the corridors. Just now, when he and Hua Xin walked all the way here, they did not feel that there was any formation in the corridors. Now, with a glance, the formation in the corridors had appeared. The changes of the formation in the Palace of Fantasy Deities were really powerful and strange, far beyond imagination. There were a total of 36 tall dragon pillars in the hall, and each of them had a golden coiling dragon on it. The walls of the hall were made of white jade, and it was extremely gorgeous. However, the entire hall was empty. About 10 minutes later, a figure flashed, and Chu Yitong's figure appeared in the hall. Chu Yitong appeared in the hall. His clothes were tattered, Some of his hair was burnt, and there were some bloodstains on his body. With the smell of gunpowder, he seemed to have rushed out of a battlefield. Senior Brother Chu, are you okay? Hong Indeo and the others were overjoyed and hurriedly gathered around him. I'm fine. Chu Itong panted heavily. After pausing for a few seconds, he raised his eyes and glanced at the people of the Wan Shan sect in the hall. Where are Junior Sister Gu and Junior Brother Fan? They haven't appeared yet. Chu Itong nodded and did not say anything. He just took out a handful of elixirs and put them into his mouth. After another 10 minutes or so, another figure flashed in the hall, and a red-robed man suddenly appeared in the hall. The red-robed man staggered a little and spat out a mouthful of blood as soon as he entered the hall. At the sight of the red-robed man, Xiaoping's eyes narrowed, and a killing intent flashed through his heart. Old monster Tianhua's people were obviously hostile to him. They almost did not hide it and had schemed against him twice. Thinking of this, Xiaopinggan directly walked towards the red-robed man. Not only Xiaopinggan, but also the people of Supreme Wu Chen's group saw the red-robed man appear. They looked at each other, and then the three who were not injured directly walked towards the red-robed man. What do you want? The red-robed man just panted a few times and wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. When he raised his head, he felt that the atmosphere was not right. He found that he was surrounded by Xiaopinggan and Supreme Wu Chen's group. He immediately shouted and took a defensive posture. The gazes of everyone in the hall were immediately drawn over. Ahem, Senior Brothers, do you also have a score to settle with him? Senior Brothers, please, I can wait. Looking at the three people walking over, Xiaopinggan smiled and made an inviting gesture. This red-robed man, he did not know when he would plot against him again. Instead of being on guard all the time, it was better to get rid of him now to avoid any future troubles. Junior Brother Long, what's the matter? Chu Itong also walked over and asked. Xiaopinggan smiled lazily. Senior Brother Chu, before you entered here, old freak Tianhua's group plotted against me at the entrance of the first level of the Celestial Palace. They were very hostile towards me, and I was almost killed by them. Since they did it, they naturally have to pay the price. Old freak Tianhua's people plotted against you. Yes, the senior brothers opposite can testify that they all saw it. Yes, we all saw it. At that time, if Junior Brother Long had not reacted quickly, he would have been killed by old freak Tianhua's people. A person on Supreme Wu Chen's side said directly. Old freak Tianhua's people always like to plot against others behind their backs. This time, no matter what, we can't let them play tricks again. Hearing this, Chu Itong's eyes narrowed as he looked at the red-robed man. The red-robed man felt that the situation was not right, and the expression on his face had already become frightened. His eyes flashed, and the red-robed man suddenly jumped up and was about to rush towards the exit of the main hall. Xiaopinggan, who was already prepared, saw the red-robed man move and immediately attacked. He clenched his fist, and a lightning was summoned. The dazzling lightning flashed in the main hall like a twisting silver snake and pierced through the air. The red-robed man had actually summoned a water shield to protect himself in the air, but he did not expect that the lightning summoned by Xiaopinggan would attack him. The water shield was conductive and could not block the lightning. Almost at the same time the water shield was summoned, the lightning snake summoned by Xiaopinggan had already penetrated the red-robed man's water shield and hit him. The red-robed man's body was suddenly surrounded by lightning, and all his hair stood on end. He screamed and fell from the sky with smoke coming out of his body. The three people on Supreme Wu Chen's side were not slow either. As soon as the red-robed man landed on the ground, three long swords had already slashed towards him and surrounded him. Chu Itong snapped his fingers, and the red-robed man landed on the ground. Fierce flames suddenly sprang up from the ground and burned the red-robed man until he screamed strangely. Under the attack of the five people, the red-robed man screamed in pain, and his chest was pierced by a sword in less than a few seconds. Then, his body was pierced by more than 10 arrows. Xiaopinggan threw a fireball and directly turned the red-robed man into ashes. The collective trial and killing were carried out in the main hall. The onlookers did not interfere and just watched. Chapter 432. Clang. A crisp sound reverberated in the hall. It was a magic longsword that the red-robed man carried with him. The red-robed man, who had been turned into ashes by Xia Pingon, dropped a few elixirs and a magic longsword. There was nothing else left. The elixirs fell into the red-robed man's ashes, which looked disgusting. The onlookers were not interested in picking them up. It was too degrading. When the 5 people attacked just now, the onlookers just watched and stayed out of it. No one helped the red-robed man. This kind of thing was not new in the Celestial Palace. So far, before the first key was obtained, the team sent by old monster Tianhua to the land of the fallen gods was completely annihilated. No one survived. Bah, trash. A summoner on Supreme Wu Chen's side spat at the pile of ashes, as if he had vented his anger. Then, he cupped his hands at Xia Pingon and Chu Yitong before retreating to their respective resting places. Xia Pingon and Chu Yitong also retreated. Just now, Xia Pingon had a good impression of Chu Yitong. This Chu Yitong dared to attack the red-robed man. He was indeed responsible. Thank you, Senior Brother Chu. As soon as he returned, Xia Pingon cupped his hands at Chu Yitong and said, "This is my personal matter. I wanted to deal with it myself. I didn't expect Senior Brother Chu to help. Junior Brother Long, don't be so polite. Before we came in, Elderly had told us that Junior Brother Long is a member of the Wanshin sect. You can also refine soul tools. You are a talent that the Wanshin sect urgently needs. Elderly asked me to take care of Junior Brother Long's safety. Since old monster Tianhua dared to attack Junior Brother Long, it is the same as attacking the Wanshin sect." The hall was abnormally silent. Everyone was recovering their strength. Just now, a person had died here, but it was as if nothing had happened. After another half an hour, a shadow flashed at the entrance of the hall, and a person came in through the entrance. Junior Sister Gu. Chi Yu's figure flashed as she rushed towards Gu Yuqing. Holding Gu Yuqing's hand, she finally heaved a sigh of relief. Everyone was happy to see another person from the Wanshin sect. Gu Yuqing didn't have any traces of a fierce battle on her body. Nobody knew how she passed the previous levels. After she came to the hall, she glanced at everyone's faces and then came to Xia Pingon. She bowed to Xia Pingon and said with some embarrassment, "Junior Brother Long, thank you for your help. Senior Apprentice Sister Gu, you're too polite. It's nothing." Gu Yuqing wasn't a lively person who was good at talking. Hearing Xia Pingon's words, she just looked at Xia Pingon gratefully and didn't say anything. A group of people was waiting there. After more than 2 hours, the ground of the entire palace suddenly trembled slightly. A wall in front of the palace slowly rose from the ground, revealing the other half of the palace. "It's coming out," someone shouted. "Everyone, get ready." Chu Yitong reminded them. Everyone instantly became spirited. They all rushed to the front of the rising wall and held their breaths as they watched the wall slowly rise. Behind the rising wall of the palace was a thick, transparent crystal wall. Behind the wall was the other half of the palace. Through the thick crystal wall, Zhang Tai could see the scene on the opposite side. Many armored bodyguard puppets were standing solemnly on the opposite side in 2 rows. Behind those bodyguard puppets, at the end of the palace, there was a long emerald table on which there were many snake-shaped golden keys. Looking at the keys on the table, everyone's eyes flashed with a bright light. Xia Pingon touched the several feet thick crystal wall in front of him and secretly pushed it hard. The crystal wall didn't move at all like a mountain. On the crystal wall in front of them, there was a fist-sized hole every few meters that led to the other side. It was impossible for a person to crawl through such a hole, and normal summons wouldn't be able to do so either. Chu Yitong directly used the long sword in his hand to slash at the crystal wall. Sparks flew from the impact, and Chu Yitong was forced to take a step back. But there wasn't even a scratch on the crystal wall. This wall really can't be broken through by force. It looks like we can only summon assassins. Chu Yitong shook his head and put away the long sword in his hand. As Chu Yitong spoke, Hua Xian and her junior Qin of the Black Dragon sect had already summoned 2 assassins. As soon as the 2 assassins were summoned, they turned into black smoke. The black smoke was like a snake as it drilled into the fist-sized hole in the crystal wall. Then it drilled out of the hole and reappeared as the assassins. Their figures were like lightning as they rushed towards the long emerald table at the end of the hall. As soon as the two assassins entered the crystal wall, the guard puppets moved at once. Several guard puppets rushed toward the two assassins. The giant shields in their hands were covered in a layer of golden brilliance, and they collided with the two assassins like mountains. "Hurry up!" Everyone summoned the assassins inside. "Only by defeating those guard puppets in one go can we get the keys." Someone on True Monarch Wu Chen's side shouted and immediately summoned 7 assassins. They turned into black smoke and went through the hole in the wall to fight with the guard puppets. Everyone on the 10,000 Gods sect side also summoned an assassin each. The assassins summoned by Xia Pengan looked exactly the same as the dragon-slaying assassins summoned by others. There was nothing unusual about them. Therefore, after they were summoned, they were not conspicuous at all and did not attract attention at all. As an assassin, once they attracted attention, it meant that they had failed when they appeared. The fighting on the crystal wall was extremely fierce. As the assassins entered one by one, all the guard puppets moved and formed a line of defense. Long swords, giant shields, and the light and shadow of various spells intertwined, intercepting and killing the assassins who entered. On the other side of the wall, the summoners who summoned the assassins could only watch the performance of the assassins they summoned. Assassins of the same level had different abilities, wisdom, and talents due to different summoners. Just like summoners of the same level, they were not exactly the same. Soon, the assassins who entered were killed by the guard puppets and dissipated into light. Those guard puppets seemed to be born to restrain the abilities of the assassins. The armor on their bodies was like the armor of a tank, covering all the weaknesses of the guard puppets. The weapons in the hands of the summoned assassins and the spells they released could not hurt those guard puppets at all. Seeing that the assassins they summoned were killed, the summoners on this side immediately summoned a second assassin. They would not give up until they achieved their goal. In the chaos, the assassins summoned by Xia Pengan quietly released a large-scale smoke skill. The hall on the opposite side was suddenly filled with thick smoke, blocking everyone's sight. Who is it whose assassin is releasing the smoke skill? A summoner on True Monarch Wu Chen's side shouted. The situation inside was too chaotic. There were intense fighting and the roar of spells everywhere. The assassins and the guard puppets were entangled in a tangle, and their figures flashed like lightning. Under such circumstances, the people on this side could not determine who summoned the assassin to release the smoke skill. Xia Pengan did not expect that the assassin he summoned would release the smoke skill. This was not his order. He only felt that his assassin released the smoke skill. This was a spontaneous action of the assassin he summoned in order to complete the task. In the thick smoke, the assassin summoned by Xia Pengan suddenly became more than twice as fast. That assassin's figure crisscrossed between 2 shields and 3 huge swords. Like a ghost, it rushed to the long emerald table at the end of the hall and grabbed a key. With a bang, its figure dissipated into smoke again. A guard puppet opened its mouth and inhaled fiercely. All the smoke in the hall on the opposite side was sucked into the guard puppet's stomach, and the sight on this side became clear again. In just a few breaths, the summoners on this side had already discovered that 2 of the snake-shaped keys on the long emerald table on the opposite side were missing. Everyone was shocked. They did not know whose assassin had snatched the 2 keys. In the next second, with a bang, the assassin summoned by Xia Pengan appeared on the other side of the crystal wall. Seeing that everyone else was searching for something in the main hall, Xiao Pingan also strolled around the main hall. This palace was too large. With a huge dome as high as 100 m, the palace covered more than 10 square miles. The floor of the palace was made of shiny black crystals. From afar, it looked like a black tranquil lake which reflected the fiery light around the palace. The fiery light came from the burning lamps on the silver lampstands on the walls and huge pillars. At first glance, there were no other portals in the hall. A group of people rushed into the skeletons of the giant snakes and carefully searched for something. Some people were touching the walls and knocking on the floor, as if they were trying to find a secret door. The skeletons and corpses of some exotic beasts were actually treasures with many magical uses. Some realm pearls and treasures might be in the bones of those exotic beasts. For example, the centipede pearls on the giant centipedes were in the bones of the centipedes. The giant snakes were 50 to 60 meters long and had wings. They were clearly exotic beasts. Perhaps there were some treasures in them. Just as Xiao Pingan was strolling in the hall and looking around, he heard a cry of surprise. Xiao Pingan turned his head and saw that Hua Xian and her junior sister Qin had each put a giant snake skeleton into their own spatial equipment without saying a word. What tycoon? How big was this spatial equipment? Xiao Pingan was also startled. The spatial equipment of an ordinary summoner definitely couldn't hold such a large giant snake skeleton. Of course, his spatial warehouse could actually hold it, but he didn't know what those giant snake skeletons were used for. Secondly, he didn't want to expose his secret mandala, so he didn't use them. Seeing the two female disciples of the Black Dragon Gate start to put the bones of the giant snakes into their own spatial equipment, the others didn't know what to think, but they all followed suit. Even if their spatial equipment wasn't that big, they still cut off the heads of the giant snakes and put them into their spatial equipment. After the two female disciples of the Black Dragon sect put away the two giant snake skeletons, they leaped to the side and put away two more. The others also quickly put away the giant snake skeletons. Everyone knew that anything that could catch the eyes of the disciples of the Black Dragon sect was definitely useful. Even if they didn't know how to use it, they could take it out first. At least they could report back. The Child of Fortune had been sitting on Xiao Pingan's shoulder. Just as Xiao Pingan was strolling around, the Child of Fortune suddenly stood up. His nose twitched and his eyes swept around. His figure flashed, and he suddenly left Xiao Pingan's shoulder and appeared next to a giant pillar more than 2 meters away. He was hanging on the giant pillar's lampstand and was circling around an oil lamp on the lampstand. He looked a little excited and kept waving at Xiao Pingan. Xiao Pingan was also stunned. Could it be that the Boy of Fortune had discovered something? With this thought in mind, Xiao Pingan strolled all the way and quietly walked over to the giant pillar. He raised his head and looked at the lamp that made the Child of Fortune act strangely. There was actually nothing unusual about the lamp. It was placed on a tree-shaped lampstand. There were 7 lamps on the lampstand, and that lamp was exactly the same as the other lamps. It looked like a simple and unadorned 10,000-year-old bronze lamp. The lamp was in the shape of a red-crowned crane. The red-crowned crane spread its wings and stood upright on one leg. There was a flame on the crane's head. The 7 lamps were matched with a lampstand, and it looked like 7 red-crowned cranes standing on a tree. It was very lifelike. This kind of lamp could be found everywhere in the hall. To ordinary people, this lamp could be considered a treasure, but to a 6th Sun Realm summoner, it was equivalent to an ordinary handicraft in the eyes of a rich person. There was nothing strange about it. Xiao Pingan calmly took down the lamp and held it in his hand. He carefully played with it and even injected a bit of god power to test it. The lamp did not react at all. Xiao Pingan touched his chin. His heart moved slightly. He suddenly thought of a problem. The creature in this hall was a giant snake. Why was the lamp in this hall in the shape of a crane? One had to know that cranes were the nemesis of snakes. Could there be some meaning behind it? After thinking for a while, he still could not figure it out. He turned the lamp over and over again, but there was nothing strange about it. Just as Xiao Pingan wanted to put the lamp back on the lampstand, he found that there seemed to be a bit of dust on the crane's head. He gently blew, wanting to blow away the dust on the lamp. With a breath, the flame on the crane-shaped lamp instantly turned scarlet gold. An invisible ripple spread out from the wick of the lamp and instantly spread throughout the hall. Wherever the ripple spread, the entire hall was bathed in golden light. There were specks of golden light everywhere, like fireflies floating in the void. The black floor of the hall reflected the specks of golden light. The entire hall was colorful and glazed, as if it was a different world. Chapter 434. Xiao Pingon was stunned when he exhaled. Needless to say, those who were still searching everywhere were also shocked. This was because in the blink of an eye, they discovered that the entire hall had turned into a golden color. Everyone's gaze suddenly turned towards Xiao Pingon. They saw that Xiao Pingon was holding a copper lamp in his hand and was looking at them with an astonished expression. Just as everyone was looking at Xiao Pingon, the red-crowned crane on the copper lamp in Xiao Pingon's hand seemed to come alive all of a sudden. The red-crowned crane twisted its neck, turned its head, and combed the feathers on its wings with its long beak. Then, one of its feet landed on the ground, and its whole body shook as if it wanted to shake off all the dust on its body. After that, the red-crowned crane slightly spread its wings, bent its neck towards the sky, and made a proud pose. Then, it froze and turned back into the copper lamp. However, the flame in the copper lamp's flame core was still shining with golden brilliance. Everything felt like a dream, but it also felt like a blur. In this case, the entire hall was strangely quiet for a few seconds. "What's that copper lamp?" Finally, someone exclaimed at the sight of the copper lamp in Xiao Pingon's hand. "Ah, the huge snake moved." Gu Yulong, who was wandering in the head of a huge snake, uttered a weird shriek as he was scared out of his wits. He instantly ran out of the head of the huge snake skeleton, pissing his pants. Everyone turned their heads to look and saw that there were a few giant snakes with complete skeletons in the hall. At this moment, they suddenly moved. Two balls of golden flames lit up in the originally empty eye sockets of the giant snakes. The head of a huge snake with golden flames in its eye sockets began to move slowly. It shook its bones and wings, making a series of ear-piercing sounds in the hall. Then the huge, ferocious head began to lift off the ground slowly, trembling. A huge oppressive aura was released. Another huge snake with golden flames in its eye sockets moved relatively less. It just wriggled, and its huge skeleton trembled on the floor of the hall. There were also a few huge snake skeletons that were trembling slightly, as if they were being pulled by an invisible force. Seeing that everyone's eyes were on the lamp in his hand, Xiao Pingon put the red-crowned crane lamp into his spatial equipment. Boom! As Xiao Pingon put away the lamp, the skeleton of the huge snake that had just lifted its head off the ground seemed to have lost all its support and strength. It fell from a high place and smashed into the hall. The skeletons of the other huge snakes that were still moving became still at once. Those golden light spots in the palace disappeared. The entire palace recovered its original look at once. "That lamp is a divine weapon?" A summoner on the side of Dustless stared at Xiao Pingon and muttered to himself. "No, that should be a fragment of a divine weapon. If it's a divine weapon, a summoner in the reflection realm wouldn't be able to make it react at all. Only a broken divine weapon fragment would react to a low-level summoner." Just when everyone's eyes fell on Xiao Pingon, Gu Yulong was the first to react. Without saying a word, he quickly flew to the side of a lampstand, took down those red-crowned crane lamps from the lampstand, and stuffed them into his space teleportation equipment. Not only that, but Gu Yulong also summoned his assassin and the giant just now. He asked the assassin and the giant to snatch the red-crowned crane lamps on the walls and pillars of the hall. When Gu Yulong moved, the others also reacted. There were so many red-crowned crane lamps in the hall. What if there was more than one fragment of a divine weapon? What if there were other treasures and opportunities in those red-crowned crane lamps? For a moment, the hall was in chaos. Everyone rushed toward the red-crowned crane lamps beside them. Not only that, but they also summoned assassins, giants, strange birds, and so on. All the summoners and the creatures they summoned had only one goal, which was to snatch the remaining red-crowned crane lamps in the hall. Faced with this situation, Xia Pinggan's eyes flickered. Unwilling to fall behind, he summoned an eagle owl, an assassin, and a giant. They started snatching the red-crowned crane lamps and stuffing them into his spatial warehouse. As the lamps were taken down one by one, the light in the hall became dimmer and dimmer. At this time, everyone was busy taking down the lamps, so no one paid attention to Xia Pinggan for the time being. As for Xia Pinggan, he had already quietly taken out a leaf in less than 10 minutes. All the red-crowned crane lamps in the hall had been taken by the people who had entered the hall. As the last lamp disappeared, the hall was pitch black. A few seconds later, someone waved his hand and summoned a large number of fireflies. The pitch-black hall was lit up again. Just as the light rose, several people on Supreme Dustless's side saw Xia Pinggan's figure appear at the end of the hall like a ghost. Xia Pinggan held a red-crowned crane lamp in his left hand and pushed the wall with his right hand. A door appeared on the originally smooth wall. In the next second, Xia Pinggan disappeared behind the door. Several people rushed over and knocked on the wall. However, only an empty echo came from the wall, and no door appeared. Meng Ziki rushed over and summoned a giant. The giant punched the wall. With a loud bang, the giant was knocked back 2 steps by the force of the impact. Not even a speck of dust fell from the wall. Meng Ziki's eyes flickered, and he looked disappointed. Chu Yitong and the rest of the people from Wan Shun's sect rushed over and searched along the wall. However, they did not find anything unusual. Chu Yitong secretly heaved a sigh of relief. Just now, he was secretly worried that once everyone had taken all the lamps, they would turn their attention to Long Huan. At that time, the atmosphere in the hall would become tense and a fierce battle might break out. However, he did not expect Xia Pinggan to find a door and leave. Unknowingly, many problems were avoided. Long Huan found another door and left. A person on Supreme Dustless's side as he touched the wall. He said with envy and jealousy, "What good luck! It must be the fragment of the divine weapon in his hand." Another person said with certainty, "Without the fragment of the divine weapon, he can't find a door to leave here. I wonder who got the red-crowned crane lamp or the fragment of the divine weapon." Don't be silly. Apart from Long Huan, who else would say that they have a fragment of a divine artifact at this time? Hearing this, everyone looked at each other. Nobody dared to say anything else. Nobody dared to take out their immortal crane, everlasting lamp. That was indeed the case. In such an environment, who knew what would happen if another fragment of a divine artifact were to drop? No one was a fool. There was nothing else in the hall. Everyone was divided into several groups. The 2 female disciples of Black Dragon sect, Supreme Dustless's group, Meng Ziki's group, and the rest of the people from Wan Shun's sect found a place to meditate and wait patiently. There were also some who were unwilling to give up and wanted to search the hall to see if they could find anything else. For example, Gu Yulong. However, even after knocking on every floor and pillar in the hall, he still didn't find anything else. Meng Ziki and Supreme Wu Chen's men also searched the hall twice, but they still found nothing. Time passed unknowingly like this. 3 days passed very quickly, at least for summoners. They would be immersed in meditation or immersed in the construction of the secret mandala, summon a few characters, and so on. Unknowingly, time would pass by. After 7 days in the fallen god's land, everyone in the palace felt a tremor all over as their vision blurred. In the blink of an eye, they had been teleported out of the palace and arrived above the dilapidated shrine at the bottom of the sea where they had entered the fallen god's land. Xia Pinggan was naturally transported out as well. Supreme Mingi, Elder Li of Wan Shun's sect, Black Dragon sect leader, Supreme Dustless, and Old Weirdo Tianhua were all waiting there. Seeing everyone being transported out, they all rushed over. Only Old Weirdo Tianhua's face darkened when he saw that there was no one in red among the people who had been transported out. His eyes flashed fiercely as he stared at the people who had been transported out. Elder Long Huan obtained a fragment of the divine weapon in the land of the fallen gods. A person from Supreme Dustless's group spoke directly. In an instant, everyone's eyes were fixed on Xia Pinggan. Chapter 435. Even if it was just a fragment of a divine weapon, it was still something extraordinary. For an expert like Supreme Mingi, it was of great significance. In an instant, the sect master of Black Dragon Sect, Elder Li, Old Weirdo Tianhua, Supreme Wuchen, and Supreme Mingi were all shocked. They looked at Xia Pingon with burning eyes. What fragment of a divine weapon? Why don't you show it to us and broaden our horizons? Supreme Wuchen smiled kindly at Xia Pingon, his eyes flashing. Huh, Xia Pingon laughed. Except for me, all the senior brothers and senior sisters who went in May have obtained a fragment of a divine weapon. It looks no different from an ordinary lamp, just like this. Xia Pingon took out an ordinary red-crown crane lamp and showed it to everyone. I don't know what's going on either. Senior Wuchen, why don't you ask the people you brought here? They may have a fragment of a divine weapon in their space teleportation equipment. What's going on? Hearing Xia Pingon's vague explanation, the experts frowned and looked at the people they brought in. Chu Yitong, Hua Xian, and the others could only report the situation in detail to their respective elders and masters. The experience in the last hall was full of twists and turns. The giant serpents had been killed, and only their skeletons were left. Someone entered in advance, left a message, and took away the fragment of a divine weapon. However, Xia Pingon found something strange in the lamps in the hall and obtained a fragment of a divine weapon. Then, Xia Pingon entered a new portal and left the hall. Speaking of the abnormality of Xia Pingon's divine weapon fragment, everyone described it vividly. All of them had gained a lot of immortal crane, eternally bright lanterns. Previously, they had checked them one by one and found nothing abnormal. At this moment, they didn't know whether there were other pieces of immortal items or other treasures in those immortal crane, eternally bright lanterns. They had to hand them over to their masters and elders for further investigation. To be honest, if the fragment of a divine weapon could be found so easily, it would have been taken away. Just as they were talking about Xia Pingon's experience in the hall, Xia Pingon had already arrived in front of Supreme Mingi. Before Supreme Mingi could react, Xia Pingon took out the genuine red-crown crane lamp and handed it to Supreme Mingi. Senior, this is a fragment of a divine weapon that I obtained in the land of the fallen gods. I don't know what its use is. Supreme Mingi's triangular eyes could not help but be moved at this moment. He held the fragment of the divine weapon tightly in his hand and scanned the surroundings with a vigilant gaze, repelling a few greedy and burning gazes. Then he looked deeply at Xia Pingon and said softly, "Do you know that the value of this thing is far beyond your imagination? Are you really going to give it to me just like that?" Xia Pingon smiled freely and said loudly, "Could it be that Senior still doesn't trust my character? Before I entered, I said that I entered on behalf of Senior. Naturally, I have to give the fragment of the divine weapon I obtained inside to Senior. Senior, thank you for taking care of me and benefiting me greatly. This is my repayment to Senior." Before coming out, Xia Pingon had already thought it through. Although the fragment of the divine weapon was precious, once he left the land of the fallen gods, he would definitely not be able to take it away under the covetous eyes of a group of experts. Leaving it behind would only bring him a fatal disaster. Moreover, the fragment of the divine weapon was temporarily useless to him. If he wanted to understand the mystery of the fragment of the divine weapon, he was afraid that he would have to wait until he reached the Nine-Sun realm. Instead of carrying something that could kill him at any time but was useless to him, it was better to be magnanimous and establish a good relationship with Supreme Mingi. At the same time, he could establish a good character for himself. Sometimes, a person's character seemed useless, but sometimes its value was immeasurable. The people present looked at Xia Pingon, Bao Kuei, Black Dragon Sect Master, Supreme Wu Chun, and the others with a different gaze than before. Long Huan gave me the fragment of the divine weapon. Does Elder Li and the Wan Shun sect have any objections? Supreme Mingi asked directly as he held the crane, everlasting lamp in his hand. His triangular eyes looked at Elder Li of the Wan Shin sect, who was not far away. To be honest, When Elder Li saw Xia Pingon give the fragment of the divine weapon to Supreme Mingi, his heart trembled. He was extremely reluctant to do so, but at this moment he could not say anything else. He could not snatch it away even if he wanted to. He had agreed to the condition that Xia Pingon had to enter the land of the fallen gods. Moreover, although Xia Pingon was now an official disciple of the Wanshan sect, he had not integrated the realm beads given to official disciples by the Wanshan sect. He did not owe anything to the Wanshan sect. At this moment, the influence of the Wanshan sect on Xia Pingon was very limited. A smile appeared on Elder Li's face. Disciples of the Wanshan sect always do what they say. As an elder of the Wanshan sect, I feel very comforted to have a disciple like Long Huan. Although the fragment of the divine weapon is precious to you and me, it is not as important as the reputation of the Wanshan sect. Let me congratulate Taoist Mingi on obtaining a fragment of the divine weapon. Elder Li's heart ached, but his words were very straightforward. Supreme Mingi finally put away the crane everlasting lamp and said to Xia Pingon, "If you have any problems in the future, you can come to Crouching Dragon Island to find me. If I have time in the future, I will definitely pay you a visit." After saying that, Xia Pingon left Supreme Mingi's side and returned to Elder Li's side. Previously, I heard that Long Huan opened a door in that hall and entered another hall. Now that Long Huan is so generous, I wonder if he has obtained any other treasures or divine weapons in the other halls. Perfected Lord Wu Chun stared at Xia Pingon. His words were extremely harsh. "Ha ha ha!" Xia Pingon laughed loudly. "Senior, thank you for your concern. In fact, I didn't leave that hall at all. I just used hallucination to make it look like I left the hall and then used a secret method to hide my spirit. At that time, everyone knew that I had a fragment of the divine weapon. If I continued to stay in the hall, I was afraid that it would make things difficult for my senior brothers and sisters. Even if I couldn't avoid a fight, I would have to take a step back and pretended to leave in exchange for everyone's safety." "You make it sound nice. How can you prove it?" Xia Pingon said calmly as he pointed at a chubby, round-faced summoner beside Supreme Dustless. On the second day in the hall, this senior brother beside Supreme Dustless secretly removed dozens of ornaments from the coiling dragon pillars and took them out. When he was doing that, I was on one of the coiling dragon pillars. I even saw him hiding some good wine behind the coiling dragon pillars and drinking a lot when no one was paying attention. The summoner pointed at by Xia Pingon opened his mouth and looked sluggish. Apparently, Xia Pingon was right. At a glance, everyone knew what was going on. As they had just been teleported out of the land of the fallen gods, Xia Pingon didn't have time to find someone to ask about it. Therefore, Xia Pingon must have been in the hall at that time. Otherwise, he wouldn't have known about it so clearly. At that time, this person in front of them was still thinking about how to protect everyone so as to prevent them from killing each other over a fragment of the divine weapon. He was both brave and resourceful. Therefore, Supreme Dustless was speechless. "Where are my people? Why didn't any of them come out?" Old weirdo Tianhua panted heavily as he shouted in exasperation. "It must be you. You must have done something inside and trapped my people. Have you forgotten that you're responsible for your own life and death inside? Last time, my people were also annihilated. This time, it's your turn." Supreme Dustless sneered. "This is called retribution." "What? You're upset now. Seeing our people come out, you want to find trouble here? If you want to fight, then come. I want to see how much you've improved over the years." The Black Dragon Sect Master, Supreme Nether River, and elderly turned to look at old weirdo Tianhua with unfriendly gazes. The rules were set by everyone previously. What was old weirdo Tianhua doing? Was he trying to act shamelessly when he couldn't afford to lose? The heavy pressure coming from all around made old weirdo Tianhua shut his mouth. He slowly retreated a few steps and said ruthlessly, "Fine, fine, fine. Let's wait and see." After saying that, old weirdo Tianhua's figure flashed and a huge underwater whirlpool appeared. His figure sank into the whirlpool and disappeared. Supreme Nether River didn't delay. With a flick of his sleeve, He used his divine power to sweep up Meng Ziki and left. The Black Dragon sect master stretched out his hand and called for the Black Dragon. He brought the two female disciples and rode the Black Dragon away. When Hua Xian left, she even turned her head to look at Xiao Pingon. Xiao Pingon smiled and waved to Hua Xian. The Black Dragon sect master suddenly turned his head and glared at Xiao Pingon. Hua Xian quickly lowered her head. What was going on? Xiao Pingon rubbed his nose. Supreme Dustless opened a golden door in the water and left with his people. In the blink of an eye, only the people from the 10,000 Gods sect were left. Elder, Junior Brother Fan. Chu Yidong asked. Junior Brother Fan? Fan Ishian? Xiao Pingon also noticed that only one person from the 10,000 Gods sect hadn't come out. He had even spoken a few words with Fan Ishian. Elderly sighed softly and shook his head. Time's up. Those who haven't been sent out of the fallen godland must have met with misfortune. Let's go. As he spoke, Elderly stretched out his hand, and a huge metal ball several meters tall appeared in front of everyone. The huge metal ball opened a door, and Elderly led everyone into it. Xiao Pingon also followed. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.